Today we have very special guest. His name is Chris Dirker, and I'm gonna show a little bit of his work and his backgrounds. Let me share my browser. Chris Dirker, it's ex-alumni from this class. He particularly took this class back when Ken Klickinger was the teacher of ADC. And now he graduated last semester. Now he is working as a digital technician, first assistant with amazing renowned photographers like R.C. Rivera, Eric Almas, and he's been traveling across the US, making amazing photo shoots, big photo shoots. And it's going to be a great inspiration for us today to learn about him. His work focuses on portraiture, fine art, and aerial photography. We can see here some of his past work. He was the winner of the past spring show with this aerial picture that you see here. And he took the time to come in here and create a set with us and a whole presentation to talk about his experience working on set. So let's welcome to Chris Dirker. Chris, thank you for being here. Also, as part of this presentation, Chris has brought us with a sponsor, which is the Little Giant Lighting and Grip. This is a great company in the Bay Area that is specialized in rentals of equipment from trucks to lighting, from grip to camera support. Also, they rent cameras as well, any production supplies needed. They also focus on lighting design and crew connections. So thank you, the Little Giant, for sponsoring this guest lecture. And before we go with Chris, I wanted to talk very quick about the assignment for next week. So please take notes of today's class, because next week, in the first 20 minutes of the class, we're gonna be doing a written exam about today's class. So make sure that you are paying attention, that you're taking notes, because there is a lot of information that I will be asking you in the test for next class, and that will be your assignment. So just make sure to take notes, and also I will be sharing the recording of the class for anyone that wants to go over all of the points while you are studying. And I'll obviously will post that in the discussion topics. Cool. And thank you, Greg. Yes, I am recording. I'll make sure that I'll share this with everyone. So let's please give a welcome to Chris. And then Chris, you're free to take it from here.
Thank you, Edwin. I thank everyone for allowing me to be here today. Really looking forward to it. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you very good.
Awesome. So yeah, let me pull up my little slideshow presentation. I'm gonna be talking about something that I wish I would have, some things that I wish I would have known before going into set, and it's impossible to teach everything. So I'm just gonna kind of share some of my personal experiences regarding digital tech and first assisting, or assisting of any matter in that regards. So let me share my screen with you. Alrighty. Okay, so first and foremost, you know my name, obviously, but these are some images that I took from being on set. The top left one was when I worked for RC. I was full-time with RC in his beautiful studio, and he's an amazing photographer and a great friend. So this was a shoot for DeMarcus Cousins. I'm sorry, Draymond Green. He did a different shoot for DeMarcus Cousins. So I'm going to talk about in studio and then also on location as well. So we kind of got a combination of images here from those. So what I think is important is you'll get a call sheet when you do get hired. And what I've seen a lot of, at least recently, is a lot of still shoots that are accompanied by motion. And that changes a lot in regards to lighting. I've seen a lot of photographers, big photographers, shoot continuous lighting. And strobes are still very useful, but if they're in the same set, as you know, mixing is not easy. And when they're shooting motion, it's not really possible to also use strobes. So when video teams come on board, you're going to get names of people that you're not going to recognize. Some of them you'll recognize, like maybe a producer. And I've got a description of each of these, and I'll just go through them. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So a producer is a person that initiates, coordinates, supervises, and manages the creation of a production. They are involved throughout all phases of production from inception to completion, including coordination, supervision, and control of finances, talent, crafts. This is a very important role, and a lot of times they'll be brought on before the photographer will, depending on if they have an in-house producer. They're also sometimes known as art buyers, or sometimes it's a similar position. Director manages the creative aspects of the production. They guide the talent and the crew to capture the vision or concept. Production coordinator, which is what I'm going to be talking about today as a great way to get into a set. Production coordinator's job is to help the producer with all aspects of the production. Some of these tasks include facilitating the production schedule, budgets, equipment rentals, transportation, locations, catering, billing, and communication with crew members. So that is one way to work. It is a little bit of a higher position though than a PA. Production coordinator is a very important, they're all important roles, but the PA is the role that I think is, in my opinion, the most sought after and the most changed, because there's not a lot of people that are PAs for long. PA is like the introduction to the set, and then you make your way up from there. A production assistant's role can change every day, which can be fun. You're not doing the same thing. But in general, there's support staff for the on-set team, carrying out tasks for the production team first and foremost. I threw this in here, COVID compliance officer, because it is essential nowadays until we go back to when it's not. But before, this was known as like a safety officer, which on video shoots or any type of photo shoot that's larger, you would need a safety officer. But a COVID compliance officer really just ensures all personnel knows and follows the established safe work procedures. And especially these days, if you're shooting in San Francisco, I just got off a job last week where we had a 100-page permit from SF Film Commission. And you have to have a very detailed health and safety plan. And that person is the person that follows that plan and makes sure that everyone abides by it as well. Whether that's masks 6 feet apart, testing, if talent has masks off, all that kind of stuff is where that role lies. DP, a director of photography, also known as a cinematographer, is the person responsible for creating that look of a film. A good DP will elevate the director's vision and introduce ideas and concepts the director may not have considered. That is obviously going to be a video role, as well as first AD. A first AD, which is an assistant director, is responsible for on-set communication, department coordination, conflict resolution, and safety. There's another safety role there, but that's a very important role. They are usually right next to the director of photography and passing along messages. They'll also, if there's a script, they'll also call out that we need quiet on set. It's basically just a loud communication for the director. ACAM, which is going to be as it seems. If you have multiple cameras, A, B, C, whatever you have, that camera operator is going to be ACAM. And then each cam op usually has a first AC, which is the assistant camera. It's a pretty self-explanatory role, but one of their main jobs is focusing. So they call these people focus pullers a lot. They usually also have a kit where they come in with monitors and wireless follow focuses. So that way the cinematographer can focus on the vision in the picture, and then AC can focus on the focus. So moving down, this is an important one, and this is something that I had to learn on my own. There is a difference between a Digitech and a DIT. When there's motion involved, usually the digital tech is in charge of stills. I just worked a job in Colorado a couple weeks ago, and there was a DIT and then a digital tech, which I was. It was a casino, and the DIT, we had 3 cameras, 3 motion cameras, and two, sometimes 3 still cameras. So we had separate roles, but they are very similar. He or she takes including camera management, data management, color management. A lot of times we're doing coloring on site. For stills, it's a little bit less, but a lot of people shoot flat, so you have to do some color for the DIT. Still photographer, we should all know what this is. But I want to point out that on shoots that have motion element, you will work a lot with the DP and the director, because when you're shooting a campaign, the stills need to somewhat match and vice versa. So that is very important there. Oh, sorry. Alrighty, and coming up next, we've got the first assistant, which is there constantly check camera settings, monitor lights, anticipate problems, provide suggestions they may see, and make sure the photographer can concentrate on the task at hand without distractions. That's an important one. Photographers, as you know, they need a lot of concentration, and you're kind of like a first AD for the photographer. So communication, you will communicate to all the other assistants. Usually there's 3 on a bigger production. And then you've also got PAs, which sometimes might help you as well. And this is why on the next screen, I'm going to talk about, sorry, in 2 screens, I'm going to talk about a production assistant, why that's such a great role to get in. And you'll see more on that in a second. So key grip. You'll see these a lot on video sets as well. And I'm mentioning them today because you might be asked to go get some type of equipment for the photographer. And on these video shoots, these people are in charge of that equipment. So you need to know who you're talking to. And it's just always helpful to have knowledge of who's on set. So key grip is the main grip. He executes tasks from the cinematographer or photographer for light placement, camera movement, and assistance for their team. The key grip also coordinates the rigging on the film set, similar to how the gaffer coordinates the lighting, which I'll talk about a gaffer in a second. Best Boy. The first job that I worked and I saw Best Boy, I thought that was the name of the company. So I'm pointing this out so you don't have the same issue that I had. It wasn't an issue, but it was funny. So Best Boy Grip works under the Key Grip, managing the company of grips. So this kind of goes in order here, okay? So Key Grip, Best Boy Grip, and Grip. Grip is a person in charge of setting up equipment, the footage, to support the camera in production. So like sticks, tripods. A lot of times they'll do what's called a Dana dolly. So these are all things that they will set up. The grip sets up the rigging that follows the camera and allows it to move around the set to capture footage. A gaffer. A gaffer is very common. Sometimes photo assistants will also be a gaffer. And it really does elevate the amount of work that you can do. You can work on photo shoots as well as video shoots if you know how to gaffer. He's the head electrician responsible for execution of lighting plan for a production. Term gaffer, which I didn't know this before I found this, originally related to the moving of overhead equipment to control lighting levels using a gaff. And then Best Boy Electric, the last one I'm going to talk about here, assistant to the gaffer. So I don't really, I know we all know what makeup and hair is, and they are very important, as well as wardrobe stylists. But so I don't cram your brains full of information. I'm just going to skip those for now. Alrighty, so let's talk about production assistant role. Does anyone have any questions so far? All right, well, I'm going to continue then, okay? Production assistant. I can't recommend starting out as a production assistant more. Productions are constantly looking for people to fill this role. In my opinion, the easiest way to get a job and be on set is as a PA. When you don't know anyone yet, obviously. Once you know people, then it's word of mouth at that point. But Facebook groups is a really good way to find these roles. If you're not a part of SF Image Makers, whatever Facebook groups you can find, a lot of times they will ask for last-minute PAs or PAs for an upcoming shoot. Once you start working, word of mouth really helps. You'll find out very fast how small our community is. And this is an important thing to point out. You don't want to burn any bridges. I don't recommend it. Be as professional as you can on set, show up on time, stay off your phone. It's never looks good if you're on your phone for Instagram or Facebook. Be like a sponge, soak up as much information. The reason why I'm recommending a production assistant role is because it's a great way to be on set and you don't have as much pressure as you would being a first assistant, a second assistant, or third. A production assistant really gets to focus on smaller things, but they're very important, and you get to learn more that way. So continuing on there, I have helped a few students looking to get their foot in the door with this position. So if you are interested, please let me know. We're always looking for PAs. I always mention to keep your end goal in mind, which is very important because, getting coffee every now and then is not, it's not your favorite job, but you got to pay your dues, and people are usually nice to you too. So I made it to the position I am today from a production assistant role. I work full-time for Eric, and I was on this because I was a COVID compliance officer slash PA on a job in the East Bay. And Mike, who is Eric's producer, I met him on set there, and I was working hard. I was doing everything I can in my power to do what I can. And he liked that and started working. So, you know, everyone is always watching you. So just keep that in mind. PA has the opportunity to network with people on set that can provide you work. The call sheet, you'll get it sent usually the night before. Take a look at it, do your research, see who's on set. That doesn't mean stalk them, but you know, use that as an opportunity to see who's going to be there. Maybe look up their website, what kind of work they do, kind of people they work for. When you show up to set, give it your all. I know I've already said that, no matter what your role is. There's someone always watching you. Show up early to set. This is a tip I have because usually the producers or the production coordinators or digital techs and first assistants have an earlier call time. Let's say the client's call time is 10:30, the crew's call time is 10. The first assistant and all those people I just mentioned, they're going to usually be there by 9:30, 9:45. So, you know, judge it, use your best judgment. If they look insanely busy, don't go talk to them. But if you see a way to offer your hand for help, they will really appreciate that. But showing up too early is not good because then you're going to be working with overtime, and producers hate overtime. So I would not recommend that. The world is your oyster after you've made it on set. Once you're on set, you've got it in, and if you do a good job, you'll continue working. If you're wanting to work as a digital tech, so the production assistant role can get you in on both ways. If you're wanting to work as a first assistant or a second, you work hard, you do that. The producer notices you, asks you if you'll do an assistant role. Digital tech is a little bit different because usually the digital tech is a contractor or they have their own company. And they kind of work for a lot of different people. So I highly recommend during like lunch, if they are not doing anything crazy, introduce yourself. Don't wear them out, but just mention, hey, I'm interested. I want to work. If you need help with anything, just lugging equipment around, whatever it is, there's your in for that. But you can also do this after wrap time because they usually are there the latest because they're backing up footage. They don't want to travel without footage backed up. You want them to see how hard you're working. Making friends with a producer, though, is always a safe bet. I like to think of it this way. When you work with one photographer, you get worse work based on his roster of clients. So let's say I worked for Edwin. I would get clients, or I would work for him based on the clients that he has. But if you make friends with a producer, you're multiplying the amount that you can do because that producer can't be duplicated. He can't go to the same job at the same time. So he's going to stack up all these jobs with all these different photographers, and then you're working. So that is a really good way to stay busy. So yeah, more than likely the producer is not taking jobs like I just mentioned. And this is a fun fact that I just found out. One of Quentin Tarantino's earliest gigs was a production assistant on a Dolph Lundgren workout video. So big Swedish dude, workout video. I mean, you think about where he's at now, I think that's incredible. All right, so I want to give a special shout out for these because before I did this guest lecture here, I spoke with RC and Mike. So Mike Byrne is going to be giving and helping with location tips. Mike Byrne has been working with Eric for almost a decade, and he is known to be a very, very good assistant slash digital tech in the Bay. He just has insane mind for it. And then RC is very, very good at studio work, and among other things, but I learned the most from him in studio. So let's kind of go down these and work our way through it. You have to be able to know your lighting. Start with one light and build from there. These are what he thinks are the most important tips. Keep your workspace tidy. Keep cables and C-stands so they are not on top of each other. If you have to change things when taping cables down, do not tape parallel to the cable, only perpendicular. This is something that I learned being on set with him. When you pull up that strip or whatever, it's going to start folding over, which is why you go perpendicular. It still has the chance of collapsing, but it's a lot easier to get off there. Equipment companies never like finding tape on their stingers, and nor do photographers. It's messy. Always remember to have the knuckle on the right and start from the top riser. This one is pivotal. If you're flying something super high and you start at the bottom riser, you're gonna have to get a level to get up to the top. So always start at the top and always make sure that your knuckle's on the right. Because when you're tightening, whenever the weight's on the front, it's gonna tighten it. But if you put the knuckle on the left, all that weight is just gonna loosen it and you're gonna end up with a mess on your hands. Always plan ahead and scout if you can. Bring more tools than needed since you'll never know what you need, but don't be afraid to minimize your setup as well. Keep in mind you have to lug this stuff around if you're on location. Just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it. Sometimes the simplest things will work. If you're shooting in studio, please do not wear bright colors. RC did a lot of chrome, and so I would wear black because black, as you know, subtracts light. If you're an assistant, you're going to be very close to the set. If you're wearing a bright orange shirt, they're going to see it. Photographer is going to be mad because he's got to pay his retoucher more money to basically Photoshop you out of it. So, and it always just adds spillage. So just do yourself a favor. If you're working for a studio photographer, show up in dark clothes. Try not to be on your phone all day. Set up auto responses on your phone so you don't miss out on other jobs. If you can't take a call, sorry, I'm currently on set and unable to take your call. Please text me the dates and rates and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So that's a good tip. That way you can still keep jobs and make sure people understand that you're working. Okay, so moving on to on-location tips. Bring a big hat and sunscreen in your car. You'll never know when you're gonna need it. There's nothing worse than working a multiple day job and being sunburned after the first day. Tracks, if you ever shoot on tracks, if you're working for an athletic photographer, then as you might imagine, those are gonna be the worst kind of sunburns. They reflect all that light back up. It's all from personal experience. Don't follow me and do that. Learn a few knots. This one is pivotal. So there's gonna be a lot of times that you're gonna have to fly, which is what we call like a 12 by, which is gonna be a 12 foot by 12 foot, and it's gonna have silk, it's gonna diffuse light. You've probably seen them in flags. This is a larger version of that. I just had to fly a 12 by on the beach a few weeks ago, and you might imagine it's a giant parachute. So knowing a good knot and having that, you're gonna have to tie it on there really quick and hold it down so it doesn't fly away. So knowing your knots is very important, and this is true. A trucker's hitch is the most commonly one used. It's very easy to learn too. Pay attention and stay busy. Don't be too proud to pick up the trash or just straighten things up a bit. Know when to make yourself scarce. If the photographer is talking to their client, you do not need to be a part of that. Go find something to do. Don't twiddle your thumb. There's always some type of department that you can help with. Build your network. The industry relies upon personal referrals. Make sure you're sharing info with people you like to work with and save their information on your phone so you can search for and refer them. And add a location where you're at, SF, LA, New York. A lot of assistants that are higher up will work in SF and LA if the job's worth it. Don't do half rates, don't undervalue yourself. Some photographers will be tricky and try to get a cheap assistant rate. If it's a full day rate job comes along and you're booked on a half day, you won't regret it. This is something that I had to learn too after being at school, the hold system. This is very common for people that are looking really anything, to be honest. Photographer, digital tech, not so much photographer, but digital tech and assistant. First hold. So Mike, the producer, is gonna reach out to me. He's gonna say, hey, can I put you on hold for these dates? And then I'm gonna respond with first hold. When you're booking a studio, you probably know Ken Clickinger. I've booked a Capital Arts studio. I'll call him, I'll be like, hey, he says, sorry, someone has a first hold. I will put you on for a second hold. Basically, first hold is I'm available and you have the first refusal should another job come along. Second hold, you already have a first hold with someone else, but it's not confirmed yet. You have the second hold and I can challenge the first hold if your job is confirmed. Working as a freelance assistant, you're gonna have a lot of first and second holds. You don't wanna just have a first, because if you just have a first and you tell the other person no and that job falls through, you lose money. So you wanna stack yourself up. Not too much though, because then you have to tell a lot of people, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. Alrighty. AKS. So I'm gonna briefly talk about this because after we get back from our break, I have some things to demo and show you. So I'm just gonna kind of briefly go over this stuff, but I'll show you this kit more in depth afterwards. AKS back, all kinds of crap basically is what they call it. This is gonna be like a photographer who has tools that he or she needs to use to get the job done. You'll need them as well. As an assistant, the more tools will grow. As you more assist, tools will grow, possibly change depending on the job. My kit is not gonna work as your kit. You're gonna develop what you want and what you find. Like for me, I do a lot of on location now. I see a headlamp on there. There's nothing worse than breaking down a set when it's pitch dark out. I did it one job and it's horrible. You lose stuff, you forget stuff. Buy a flashlight or a headlamp, then you don't have to work in the dark. You'll have a call time that's obviously before sometimes will be before sun rises as well. So having some light is very helpful. So yeah, we'll take a look at this more in depth, but this is kind of a basic kit of what I carry. I usually carry all of it, and then once I get to set, I build the kit that I want. So I have a big tool bag, and then once I get there, I build something smaller, that way I can keep it on my person. Some things to point out though that are vital: Band-Aids and super glue. Super glue depends on how tough you are. I can honestly say I haven't had to do it in a while, but if you get cut, you're gonna get cut all the time. You're dealing with heavy stuff that's sharp, C-stands, all that stuff. So Band-Aids, that way you don't have to leave your set to go get a Band-Aid. Keep some in your kit, wrap that up, don't get blood everywhere, and then you'll be good. The one thing that's not on here that is very important right now is hand sanitizer as well. Your hands are gonna be black, so just constantly giving that to them. Your hands are already gonna be dry, so there's no point in not doing it. Apple box positions. This is something I learned from RC. So photographers that have been around for a little while, this is terminology that they'll use on set. So photographer might be yelling back for your assistant, I need an Apple New York. You need to know what that is. You'd be like, Apple New York, you want me to go to Apple to get it? You want me to go to New York to get an Apple? Like what's going on here? These are the positions of an Apple box. Depending on where they're from, the long ways, I'll show you here. This is gonna be New York, okay? This is gonna be Chicago or Texas, and this is gonna be LA. So keep that in mind. I showed you on a pancake apple, so it's a little bit harder to see, but keep that in mind.
And I just want to add there that it's not the size of the Apple box, it's the position and the orientation where you put the Apple box.
Yeah. So if you want to see a larger one, make it a little bit easier for you. This is a full apple, okay? So this is going to be New York. Photographer will be up here. And then you got Chicago. All right, it's going to be the second highest. And then you got LA, which is flat. And the way they came up with these, you probably already figured that out, is the size of the buildings there and the way that the land is laid. Me being from Texas, I prefer to call it Texas, but some people will say Chicago, so you do need to know the difference. They're the same, but you need to know both of them. All right, so this brings us back to our sponsor. You want to say something, Edwin?
No, go ahead.
Are you good? So when you're working on these photo shoots and video sets, and they're combined, a grip truck, you look at this, $350 a day to have all the grip equipment you need. C-stands, combo stands, which I'll demo all that stuff after, but it has an insane amount of stuff. Gaff tape, it's got a cart in there. For $350 a day, it's really hard to beat that. You don't want to go to a rental house and rent, if you can't avoid it, rent a couple C-stands, because when you work in some of these houses, sometimes they have rentals in studio. Capital Art, they offer their own rentals. That's a great way to do it if you're in a studio that offers that. But a lot of times it's going to be a blank canvas, and you're going to have to build what you need. So if you actually look here, these are milk crates here. Some things to point out. These milk crates, when they pack these trucks, they put this cloth on top, and they use like a zip tie type deal. Now, when they get the truck back, they're able to see what equipment was used, and they usually charge you for in the very back here, they've got, all right, they've got silks, rags is what they call them. They're all the way up here, and you're gonna have 8 buys, 6 buys, 12 buys. You have to request 20 buys if you want them, but they're just, it's cloth, and it goes to the frame, which I'm gonna show you later. But if you look here, they have one of the ties here. So they charge you per one. If you use it, as soon as you undo that, they're gonna know it's been used, so they know that they need to double check it to make sure it's okay. First time I worked on an assisting job, I opened every box in every bag. So I don't recommend that. All right. So this, and like I said, I'm not going over all this, but I'll come back to it when I have equipment to show you. But this is everything that's in that Sprinter truck. They also have a 3-ton, a 5-ton. They've got all sorts of equipment. So it is super helpful, and it's really hard to beat that price to have all of this in there. So again, this is just the second page of what's in there. You've even got a toolbox in there with Allen keys, box cutters, all that stuff, which I keep in my kit. All right, so we're gonna talk about a job that I did recently. This is one of the jobs that the assistant, usually the first assistant, has to do. So I mentioned studios being a blank canvas. So we shot this in New York. It was a campaign, and This was just for stills. But I needed to do a studio build out. So I had to talk with the photographer and see, and the producer to see kind of how they wanted to light it, and then had to do everything. There's things like that are super obvious, like, okay, you're gonna need a light, you're gonna need apple boxes, but how do you know how many stingers to use? Stinger, obviously, for those people that don't know it, stinger is an extension cord, but it's a very professional looking extension cord, and it's got a certain rating, and it's very high performance. So you need to know how many of those. Cube taps, all these things, which, like I said, I'll go over, but it's one of those things where you haven't really had to do before. You're like, oh, so I used Little Giant's website and I looked at what's in a grip truck, and I looked up the stuff I didn't know, and I kind of started and built from there. And so this is what I would kind of keep an eye on and have this in the back of your head, because this will be something that you're having to do as an assistant. And in digital tech, it's going to be the same thing. If you're renting equipment, there's a lot of rental companies out there. You're going to have to do something similar to this, but for digital tech equipment. So the job that we did, talent will be photographed in studio and then composited into the backgrounds. All the backgrounds were shot at a different time of day. We will be building 20 by cubes. This right here is a 20 by cube. So basically you take 20 by 20 frame and you've got silk on these sides and you leave the front open. This guy, once the photographer and all the crew gets in, it gets brought down. So you've literally got a cube and you can light all the way around it. And that's how this particular photographer wanted to work. Not everyone's going to be the same. I also threw this in here. We built a beach inside of it. So that way the person had accurate reflections from sand color. So yeah. All right, so this is tips working as a digital tech. So we're gonna move on from assisting for a little bit, and we're gonna kind of talk as a digital tech. And what I have seen is working in studios, sometimes those roles will be combined. On smaller shoots like ecom, there's a lot of times that you will be digital teching and assisting because you won't always need to be next to the set. It also depends on the budget. But a clean space is one way to give you the best chance at a successful job. Losing track of cards and questioning yourself can be dangerous. It really can. Lots of times you'll be shooting tethered and having to ingest cards. When you have multiple cameras going, like the job we did in Colorado, we had the main photographer hooked up to tether, but we have other cameras and they're using cards. So you have to be able to watch what's going on with the tether and ingest cards. So you need to have a system worked out. That way you're not taking too much time away from those tethered images. Whether it's scout images or files from a second photographer, those where those other cards come from. It's impossible to do two things at once and be 100% there. Having two separate areas for a card that needs to be imported and ready to grab limits the time you're away from the tethered images. So let me show you something real quick. I'm going to go back real quick. So if you look here, the front of this page here, this is a workstation I had here. So this red circle right here is where I had the photographer drop cards that needed to be imported. As soon as I finished those cards, I put them into the green circle and they're ready to be picked up. Having a clean workspace is very important because if you just lay them down, look how many cards we have there. I'm never going to be able to tell the difference. So knowing where everything is and not letting everyone touch your stuff is how you figure that out. But the photographer will usually come on board too and want to look at files. So it's important that you know where everything is. So let's go back to the digital tech page. Okay, so back to tips. There is a higher chance for mistakes when you rush. Do everything you can beforehand to be prepared. If possible, make the session and set it up for subfolders on a transfer drive. So that's what I did today before this. I knew that we were going to be creating a session. I didn't know what the products were going to be. I asked Edwin to set up different products so we can look at folder structure and adding multiple folders so that way you can shoot to those folders and have everything organized. Well, I did everything I could to set it up. I went through, I know what I wanted to do for naming, and I knew how many folders I wanted. So I set those up. So when I get to set, I just take my transfer drive, which is underneath my computer right now. I drag and drop it, and then I'm good. I just need to add those and I'm ready to go. Time is money. And when you get to set, the photographer wants to start shooting. He's paying the crew to start shooting. So having that set up eliminates one less thing you have to do. This one is very important. Always check what version of photographer is on for Capture One. Do not immediately upgrade after they come out. There's almost always going to be bugs, and the really, really good photographers, they know better than upgrading right away. Some of them will be 3 or 4 versions behind because the upgrades weren't enough for them or didn't really matter. So if you come to set and you're teching for someone, you have Capture 120 and they have 20, and you give them that session at the end of the day, which you will do, then you're gonna have issues because that photographer is gonna have to upgrade or he won't be able to review the session. He can look at the captures, but they're not gonna like that. So just check with the photographer beforehand. If you need to download a downgraded version, do it, because you can download downgraded, but you can't go up. All right. Feedback is essential. Let the photographer know how the files are looking. Don't scream it, go whisper it if they are under, over, or out of focus. This is an important one as well. Have cards on hand in case of tether failure. I can't tell you how many times that I've been on set and the camera goes to sleep, we come back and it's just not working. Well, again, time is money. So just until you get things figured out, 99% of the time you can just quit Capture One and then reboot it and you'll be good. That's always the first step I take because I don't want to spend all this time trying to troubleshoot when I know that that's a good step and it gets it most of the time. If it doesn't, then I can figure it out from there. But rather than holding the photographer up, hand them a card, let them start shooting, and then start to get that done, and then you can go back, rather than saying, okay, I need you to stop what you're doing. And then if you are shooting with cards, do not name over the camera counter. I've seen this mistake made a lot. If you have to go into memory card recovery, if someone's missing a file, and you get rid of that original number, let's say, you know, you've probably seen like the Canon 5Ds Mark IVs. They have like a CR3 and then this original number. If you name over that and you go to recovery, you basically miss all chances. You're gonna have to look at thumbnails and find it. And recovery will pull things from years. So I would not recommend naming over it. And I'll show you the naming convention that I use. Like I said, none of these things, these are all just suggestions. What works for me might not work for you. It's important for you to figure out what you're comfortable with, because then you're able to work in your own system. If you're not comfortable, then mistakes will be made. But do understand, you don't need to know everything out of the gate. You will figure out some of this stuff for yourself. Shoot to an internal SSD or drop 2000 on a RAID 0 external. Your internal compute, your internal drive, your SSD inside your computer is always going to be the fastest option. When shopping for a computer, look for internal storage. People are always like, oh, I have external drives. I don't need a lot of internal storage. Well, when you're shooting with a photographer that needs fast speed, you're talking about a difference of, so the internal SSD would be upwards of 2000 megabits per second. Whereas even an external SSD that is not driven by a bus power, you know, not plugged in, you're talking maybe 600 at most. Whereas if you buy a $2,000 one, then you're able to get it. But if you want to avoid that cost, have the space on your computer, shoot to your computer and back up from there. Back up when possible. Capture failure can happen at any time. Depending on the size of job you're at, you're either going to be working on a desktop computer like an iMac, or you're going to be working on a laptop. Laptop's a little bit easier to deal with power because, you know, if your power isn't done, then you're not going to be held up. Your computer's not going to die immediately. It's been charging. Whereas your iMac, if you lose power, you lose power. If you didn't back something up, there's a possibility of losing it. So backing up is very important, as well as using an APC, which is going to be a battery backup. I learned this from other digital techs on SIT. It's going to be literally, it's a battery. I use like a car battery. It's got a screen on it. You plug all of your electronics into that, and it usually, depending on how much size you get, if you're traveling, you'll usually have around 20 to 30 minutes on that charge. So when I've got my innovative cart and I've got all the stuff on there, I've got a battery backup underneath it. So when we're shooting at a casino and there's 10 different locations, I don't have to shut down my entire computer that way to move locations. I unplug from the wall, I've got time, I move to the next set, plug back in. And that is a system that a lot of digital techs use because you don't have to shut the system down. And a lot of times if you're shooting fast, the images take a couple minutes to catch up. So unplugging that tether cord is one of the worst things you can do. Never leave the files unattended, even if it's for lunch. You ask someone to firewatch or you bring a drive with you. Always suggest that the files go with at least 2 separate people. Myself and Ed, when we're going to New York, we're going to do a job. This is an example. We're both flying home on the same flight. Don't bring both cards and both both drives on that plane. Ship one of them back. That way, if something was to happen, TSA was to lose it, whatever happens there, you have something at home still. Use battery backup, I already discussed that. And don't use a 4K external monitor if speed is important. So, and I say external, a lot of iMacs are 5K, but those are built that way, so they're internal. But if you use an external monitor, your computer is taking its energy and it's trying to push it out. So it's trying to up-res it. So speed is important if you use an external monitor like 4K. 2K is fine, 1080 is great. 4K also makes your images that aren't sharp look sharp. So if you're shooting a product and you need it to be sharp and look sharp and be sharp, then you might be deceived if you have a 4K monitor. So, you know, it's not the end of the world, but I don't recommend it. Unless you have a $30,000 iMac that can handle that. You know, if you're using a laptop, you're gonna have issues. So now we're gonna talk about workflow. Anybody have any questions so far? Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, there's so for say for the laptop computer, for me, I use PC, not a Mac. Would that be an overall issue?
You know, it kind of depends. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're teching, I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't know too many people that do Windows. Now, it kind of just depends. I would not recommend it just because most of the photographers that I've worked with are on the Mac system. And I don't know how Capture One works on Windows, but I do know some people take it at home and they work on it there. So I don't know the answer to that question. I don't work on Windows. I would recommend investing in a Mac if you can, if this is what you want to do. But here's the suggestion I have too. Most of the photographers I work for, I don't need to use my own equipment. They have their own equipment. Lots of the photographers that I work with have their own equipment and they prefer to work with their own equipment. So it's not the end of the world if you have a PC. And PCs are fantastic. They have lots of speed. They're great. So it kind of depends on what you're doing, if you're working for the right person.
Yeah, okay.
That'd be my recommendation. So I hope that answers. I know it's kind of beating around the bush a little bit, but that's my answer to that.
Yeah, yeah. It's all right, Chris, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
So you know how like PC and Mac, and you could format a hard drive.
Yes.
Mac,
Yeah.
you always format a hard drive.
So if you format, yeah, that's a great question. If you format your drive to PC and Mac, the partial separation will take space up. So it needs to be one of those things that you know you're going to use it for PC because you're wasting valuable space if you partition it for Windows as well. So let's say I have a 4 terabyte drive and I do part of it for Windows. Part of that you're not going to be able to access ever on Mac. You can reformat. I would say if you know you're going to do it, do it. But if you're not 100% sure, it's not worth it. You can transfer those off that drive onto another drive just as easy. So does that answer your question? Okay, cool. All right, so workflow. So this is a combination. I learned a lot of this organization from RC. He's probably one of the most organized people I've ever met, and I love it. So I've adopted his system, and this is what I do now. So this is my system on my drive at home. So I have a job folder, and for invoicing purposes too, I have numbers, how many jobs I've done, and then they just gradual. So Edwin, this class, this will be 1057, and then so on and so forth. Keep going down. These asterisks right here, this is how I identify if they're still in works. So this is my example here. This is always going to be in works, but I've got estimates at the top. Once I go through it, if I have an invoice, then I add a new job folder, or if I have an estimate and it did not get approved, I throw it into estimates. I always hold on to those in case it comes back. But you see here, I've got these, because they have those asterisks, they'll always live at the top of your Finder. So if I have a work in progress, this is where I put to do that. At the very end, I have a master images Lightroom catalog, which is where I store all the master finalized retouching images. I store them in 2 places actually. But that's when it will get removed once that project is done. But inside of the job folder, okay, which I do it by this number, the client and job name, okay? So for example, if this job was 1057, it would be 1057 underscore AAU underscore ADC underscore demo. That's how I would do it. Sometimes I differentiate what it was that I was doing, environmental, still life, product, whatever it was. So inside of that, which hoping that you can see it, yeah. Inside of that, you've got your Capture One session. I keep everything in here. That way I know where it's at. If I'm on set and I'm working with products and I need an overlay for a label, I go to for positioning options, for positioning only. I'm sorry, that's what FPO is. It's an ad term, they use it in advertising. So if I have a label, I'll put it in there and I'll know where it's at. If I have a creative deck from the job and there's file names on there, I'll put the creatives in there. Files and retouch, those really don't come into play until afterwards. And then invoices. That way you have it all there in that job folder. If I need to access this years from now, I know where the capture session is, the invoices, the creative deck, everything in one folder. And that's backed up across all my drives. So, and then you get to the session, you see here, this is how a lot of digital techs I know name it. They do the date first. So you see it here, you've got year, month, date. I set this up already. 2021-04-14, today's date, underscore ADC, I'm sorry, AAU underscore ADC underscore demo. That's how I set the session folder name up. Then you go to your naming format once you get in there. This is very important because you see camera counter. I discussed not getting rid of that original number that comes from it. So camera counter will import all of those unique file names that you see. So, but if I'm also tethering, you won't have the same numbers, which is super helpful. Because if you have the same files, if you've ever tried moving them to a folder, it will say replace, skip. You don't want that. For images, for photographers that shoot fast, preview size. This one I was taught by Mike as well. So this job that we shot 33,000 images in 4 days. This is another point I want to make too. When you're doing multiple day jobs, do multiple sessions, because if you keep all of those images into one session, it is going to bog you down so hard. And if speed is necessary, your tethering is going to be like super slow. You're going to be watching images that were shot 3 minutes ago. So this is a trick that you can do if you're starting to have some bogging issues, changing the preview size. So when you shoot an image, obviously what's great about Capture One is it is rendering the preview and importing the image at the same time, which is why it's way better than Lightroom. Preview size determines how big that preview is going to be. So when you go to do something called quick proofs, when you're processing TIFFs or JPEGs on set, if you go to preview image size, you can change the size of that. The smaller the number, obviously, the faster they're going to come in. But you also want to check with your client to see what size they're looking for when you're quick proofs. 99% of the jobs that I work on, the photographer wants quick proofs by the end of the job. So that means that I'm having to do it on the fly. Setting all this stuff up beforehand is pivotal because then you don't have to do it on set. So right here, you can see that it's going to be under image here, all right? And then you've got, and I'll show this when I go to the session, we'll work through this as well, but I just want to give it to you beforehand. And then the last thing on this page is I'm going to show you, this is an example of the job that I did. This is how I set up the folder structure in there. So we had an A cam and a B cam, okay? So you see you've got your session favorites up here, but I've created these capture folders inside of the capture folder, if that makes sense. So you've got your big guy, which is your capture folder. It's in all of the capture ones. Lots of people just shoot to the capture folder. Well, then all of your files for the entire shoot are in there. If you put them in a subfolder named, Aqua Lounge, Fire Pit, all those things, the locations you're at or wherever you want to identify it, then what I'm going to show you when you process it, it will underscore the destination folder name. So if you see here, right here, naming, destination folder name, it goes towards this. So I'm going to have my number here, all right? I actually don't do the number since it's already done in there, but I've got AAU, ADC, demo, and it's going to be underscore Aqua Lounge, Cam A, whatever it is. So that way you know where it is in your file and the folders. So that's that. Like I said, I'm going to go back to that. So if you have questions, let's wait until I get to the session. That way I can show you in person. All right, so this is another thing that Mike taught me. When you're shooting with cards, you're going to be doing a capture record, or it's highly recommended. This eliminates the, oh, did you ever import those photos? This basically covers your butt. If the photographer comes back home and realizes that a file's missing, you show them this, you'd be like, look, it wasn't from me because these right here, every time I imported a card, this is where they went, this is where they started, this is where they end. So let's say this is where that creative deck comes in play, okay? So I'm working for a client. Their shot name, the shot name and the shot number one bridge close-up. Those are those determinations. I take the photographer's card. The start name of the file in my system is this. There's your unique number. The end file in that folder, there's your unique number. The number of images on that card, 898, and the volume, how large that card was. You can go to Get Info and get that information. And then the capture location. Then I talk about my backups. These can come afterwards. But getting the main stuff in here will save your butt from trying to remember if you got it. You also know the span of the numbers. So if something is missing and you need to go to locate something, you know what the shot was, the shot number, and you know where it was in those files. Process recipes. So subpath. This has to do all going back to that destination folder. It's going to, when you're processing all of your quick proofs, okay? When you're, like you see quick proof here, I have it for RGB subpath, depending on what the client's looking for. Sometimes you'll do sRGB. But under that thing, you're gonna see here session subpath, and I will show you what that will do. That is going to take that original folder structure. You've got, Aqua Lounge. When I go to process it, you're gonna see Aqua Lounge. So it's all organized afterwards, because if you just go to all images and you process all of those, it's gonna be a cluster mess. You're gonna have all the files there. You can even get it to be, if I'm under day 1, day 2, day 3, day 1, Aqua Lounge, day 2, Fire Pit, whatever it is, but you're in control. So when you're processing files on the fly, this is really, really important. And I know this is a lot of information, so don't worry, I am gonna go back over it once I get the session open. I just want you to have your brain start working towards this. ChronoSync. This right here is going to be what I recommend for backing up. I even know DITs with video that do this because it generates a report. You can see all the thumbnails. So basically what I'll do is I'll take the root folder on my drive, my desktop, okay? And then I will create the name of that folder because it's looking at the contents inside of the folder. When you go to your drive, if you just do it from root folder to root folder, the contents of your drive are gonna be blasted into there and they're gonna be all over the place. You have to create a folder on the drive. Then you mirror left to right. And then the other thing I'm gonna mention too is you're gonna see synchronized bi-directional. If you're working with a photographer that has done editing on that drive, you're talking about a desktop that has images and you've got a drive that has Photoshop files and images. You're gonna bilaterally do it. So then you're not backing up left to right. You're backing up left, right, left, right. And the newer files, it's going to replace those. So that way you have the newest file possible. So the photographer I work for, he has a server, he's got multiple drives, and he's got 2 computers. Well, he works on them on one drive, and then he's got the server. But sometimes he'll go down to the server and make a change. If I just mirror it left to right, I have removed that change that he made. So that's why you do a bilateral synchronization, because then you're gonna have all of those files that were newer or old will be replaced, which is why it's also important to do archive replace files. You don't want to delete them immediately. You want to see what the system thought was old and new. So all of those files will go towards that archive replace file. I know that's a lot of information. I'll walk you through that again as well. Thank you. Okay, so Edwin, I'll let you take over. Yeah, I'll let you take over there, Edwin.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. This was very, very informational and a lot of great resources for the students. So we're gonna take a break. Hey, everyone, please come back to your chairs. We are gonna start the demo part. So make sure that everyone is back. Please keep your mics mute, but pay attention to this part because this is the part where I want all of you to ask questions. And I want to make sure all of you are participating so I can have your participation points of today. So make sure to ask at least one question before the class is over. Okay, so we're gonna pass it on to Chris. Now we have Jared and Zoe that will be managing the live stream camera. And Chris, please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Edwin. Can everyone hear me okay?
Oh, Chris, just.
Yeah, but can you guys switch it from minimal view to big view? There it is.
Stand by.
There you go.
All right, perfect. Can everyone hear me okay now? Good? Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to break down, like I said, everyone's kit is going to be different, but this is kind of the stuff that are this is my go-to stuff that I start with. So when I get hired for a job, this is funny enough, for John Vano's class, this was actually my shoot bag. So it's been turned into my assisting bag now, but, and I still have some of the stuff from there. But when I go to a shoot, I bring a lot of stuff, okay? But I usually keep this in my car. And then my go bag is this guy. It can fit on my side and I can put stuff inside of it. So this is kind of a scatter view of some of the stuff that I would bring. So I discussed gloves, very important. You can get these at JCX. Like I said, they're super simple. The great thing about this is your gloves. When you take them off, you don't want to lose them. So this is something that people like from film sets will use. It's literally just a little clamp here, and it will attach to these, and then you can just throw your gloves back down on your belt. So your belt, wear a belt. That is very important. So yeah, so that's gloves, okay? You know, obviously these were traditionally for like hot lights. I don't really use much hot lights anymore, but when you're carrying around equipment and you don't want to get your hands too cut up, these are very handy. Gap tape. So you saw this is gap tape is good for assisting and teching. You saw the little square thing that I made on the computer cart, and I did it with these. But it's also helpful because I can tell you how many times when you're working with a photographer that wants to change lights, you're going to need to mark down what power pack, what light you're at, the height of it, which is why you have a tape measure as well. And you'll write that on this information and you'll basically make an X where that light stand was. So when you come back and you want to move back to light position 1, you're able to know where light position 1 was, how many column risers you went up.
And Chris, is there a particular order that you use the colors?
So no, not really. I do find myself going to, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think, in my opinion, this is one of the brightest. So I'll use this on like the back of like knobs if they're sticking out. So that way people will see them and they won't smack their head. We just did a grocery shoot. We were in a grocery store while it was open. And so we have C-stands, combo stands, all these things out here. So either this or like a cut up tennis ball, you can stick it on the back. But this will help people know this is here. But I usually use one of these to tape down cables. I won't use multiple. That way I know like maybe this is gonna be camera cord, tape it down a little bit. This is gonna be stinger cord. This is gonna be something else. And then you've just got your basic white and black. I usually use the white though on the power pack, so that way I can differentiate the power on the pack. So that's what I usually use that for. Like I said, find a system that works for you. No one's ever gonna question you on that. It's whatever's comfortable for you, but at least have a couple colors, black and white. Paper tape's also good to have, but this is all gap right now. Grip trucks usually have this on them too. This is just for if I don't have a grip truck. So I mentioned the light. So yes, it might look a little silly on you, but you definitely want to have a light. You can choose to have a flashlight, but then you kind of have to hold it in your mouth. So I like this as a good option. Any headlamp, they're super cheap. You can get them on Amazon. And then I use this for like light painting. If I want to see where a light is going to be before I move it, I can go in here with this flashlight. So having two is ideal. I have two different types of multi-tools. So I've got one that has a knife, just a simple pliers, just a multi-tool. It's got a knife, it's got a screwdriver. And then since I deal with motion and still so much, I also have a tool specific for, you want to zoom in on this? Sure. Tool specific for Allen keys and like hex adapters. So like when you're putting like red stuff on there, which is why this is made by Red, you've got no more using coins. All right, so this is designed for tripod plates. Then you don't have to strip your tripod plates. This is super helpful. You can get it really tight and know 100% sure it's fine. And then lots of these will work for, like I said, for whether it's, you know, whatever it is, red cameras, but this is also great for like if you need to tighten anything else really.
Does it have a micro screwdriver on it for lenses?
It does not have a micro screwdriver for lenses. This guy does. So it kind of depends. Sometimes I'll even keep, you know, they make those little, I don't have it in my kit here today, but you know those the cell phone repair / sunglass things? They sell them on Amazon as well, and you can get one of those if you're finding yourself that issue a lot. The person I currently work for has 3 of the same lenses, so if there's an issue with it, then we'll just get a different one, and then we'll handle it afterwards. But that's obviously not the ideal thing to do. But that's a very good point there. You definitely want to have some type of micro. Then that just goes back in this guy. Put those off to the side. I mentioned ruler. So I'm sorry, not ruler. Tape measure. So this is beneficial for multiple things, but I commonly use it for shoots that we're going to have to come back to, or if it's repeat client. We'll measure the distance from the ground to the tripod, like the bottom of the lens, and then from the lens to the subject, and anything vice versa. You can use your body too. A lot of people, I learned this from a photographer, you can use your body like maybe your belly button height. Then you just go back once you have this, if you forget it, then you just measure how high to your belly button. So your body is a measurement device. It does not need to be exact. Color checker, most photographers have these. I bring it sometimes. I always have it in my kit if I need it. You've got your white balance card, neutral gray, and you've got your color checker. Try not to touch them. A lot of people touch them, but you get oily residue on there. It doesn't work as well. I would keep this. I didn't put this on my list, but you never want to feel sick on set or get dehydrated, especially when you're first assistant, because you're having to give instructions to everyone else. So this is like a little emergency vitamin C packet. So helpful. Light meter. All right, you've probably all seen a light meter. Most of the photographers have a specific way they like light. The great thing about this one does measure ambient light as well. So you're able to do ambient light and strobe light. So, and it also has a Pocket Wizard technology in it, so that's not needed. There. Talked about Band-Aids. I've got some gauze. Back to gap tape. I don't know if anybody's ever tried sticking gap tape on like hairy skin or anything like that. It's not bad. With my skin, not bad. So use gauze if you have a cut that's pretty big, and then you can wrap your gap tape around it. So, like I said, you don't want to have to leave your position, especially if you're shooting. If a medic can come to you, that's great, but these are just for minor things. You know, if you need medical attention, get medical attention. So this is actually something, these are not needed. It's just something I bring along. I don't even know what they call this thing, but it's kind of it goes to a baby pen. All right. And then you've got a 1/4-20 on top. So there are times that maybe a photographer forgets their ball head or something, or if you're doing an overhead shot, there's other tools for overhead, but this in a pinch, this will work. You'll stick this on the back of your C-stand, and then you can either attach your camera or a ball head to it. So if you need to do an overhead shot, but I believe I saw on the Academy's page, they posted a photo of the offset tool, which actually is pretty industry standard for overhead angles. Then I've just got some adapters here for stuff that I've used on my own shoots. Got a 1/4-20 on one side. It turns basically a 1/4-20 or a 3/8 inch into a stud here, so that way you can attach them. This is actually what's underneath my digital cart, which I will show you in a little bit. We can put those back. Scrap movie. Where this has come into play for me, shooting in a casino, shooting in a restaurant, whatever we're shooting in, we need to kill that light above us. We don't want to use a bunch of tape. So we'll just take a little piece of scrap doobie. Obviously, you know, it's velvet, it sucks up the light, put it over the light, and then you don't have to worry about it. So this is super helpful. The grip truck does have scrap in it. This is just if you don't have a grip truck. They also have semi-foil too. So again, this is if you don't have grip equipment. I mentioned this bag, things I didn't point out. I do have a Sharpie and a pen. Sharpie being for labeling stuff, and pen if I need to sign something or write something. And I always keep this too. When you're on bigger productions and there's a lot of communication, this is a surveillance kit. One of the things that kind of slows you down is being able to, you check walkies in and out, but if you have someone else's surveillance kit, sometimes they don't always have them, and then you don't want your photographer having to listen to all the chatter from the production. So I just keep a surveillance with me just in case. You can also order, if you're working on a lot of productions and you need surveillance, I highly recommend, they make a molded one you can get, and it does not feel like you're jabbing a pencil in your ear. that's that. Oh, last thing here, rope. So when I still practice, I try not to get rusty. We talked about a trucker rope or a trucker knot. So I bought a little rope off of Amazon. I think it was like $8. So when I have downtime, sometimes I just practice my knots. I know it sounds kind of nerdy, but it's important to know those knots, like I said. And just some miscellaneous stuff. If you're a studio photographer, I learned this from RC, quake hold. So no more blue sticky tack, stuff sticks to things. Quake hold is great. They use it in museums. When he shoots beauty products, he'll use this on the bottom of like lipsticks and you can get an angle from it. It's super strong. He recommended that to me and that's what I keep there. Yeah, and then I've got a jelly roll. I keep some gels in here. Sometimes the photographer doesn't always remember them, and you at least want like a CTO for warming and like a CTB for cooling. So I also, for I waste, if I use some city foil, I try to keep it. So like, I've got a full stop of CTO so I can warm a scene. And I've got some blue here, neutral density. If you need to bring it down, it's already at its lowest power. Some things I learned from the academy. So that's important. So that's basically my kit for assisting. Like I said, sometimes I change it around, but at least gloves, multi-tool, and gaff tape is what I have on me at all times. And like I said, I would recommend using a belt so you're not dragging your pants down. That's that. So if anybody doesn't have any questions about this, if you have questions, ask. If not, we'll move to the digital tech station.
You said Leatherman, and I have no idea what that is. What's a Leatherman?
Yeah, so, yeah, sorry. So this is, Leatherman's actually a company. This is a multi-tool. Leatherman's a multi-tool. Like I said, this thing is one of the most valuable things you can use. So you've obviously got just your regular pliers if you need to get something out. I've used these to get splinters out before. It's just a very handy tool. You've got a knife on it. You've got scissors in this thing too. So I've got little scissors.
Oh, okay.
All right. So just like I said, these things, this is a very valuable tool to have if you're needed to modify something. So the scissors, you've got a screwdriver, and you've got a knife as well. So they make a million different types. Find one that works for you. But you don't need the camera tool, but I would definitely recommend a Leatherman or a multi-tool. This is a Gerber. It's not Leatherman. Leatherman's name brand. They're very expensive. Any other questions? No? Okay, perfect. Let's move to the digital cart station. I'm going to show you my setup for when I'm not using another photographer's equipment. And then we'll jump into Capture One and go over a couple things on Capture One. So let me actually move some of this stuff out of the way so I can use it as like a little workbench here.
For those of you that don't have a Digitech kit yet, I will highly recommend to start building the basic one. Even for your own photo shoots and the photo shoots that you assist your classmates, it's great to show up on set having those tools in your belt, because it does make your workflow more efficient. Every time you need a piece of tape, you don't have to go and get it from the wall or ask someone. You know, so just start building your own Digitech kit is super valuable. I know if you took the class with Ken Marshall, he used to require everyone to have their own kit. So I know a few of you that took that class, location lighting, you might have one, but this one, the particular that Chris showed today, is essential to have any job on set. And I love that bag that he has. It's very compact and small, and you can also put it around your belt as well. But sometimes you want to be practical, and just having those attachments to your belt makes more sense for the tools that you need right away. But all these tools that he just showed is something that I highly recommend all of you to start little by little buying your own. Yeah.
I did forget one thing too. So one thing that, so when you're dealing with lights, I'm not going to get into a bunch of lighting, but when you're dealing with continuous lighting on set, you have to be very careful because most outlets, 120 outlets are like rated for around 2400 watts. And so a lot of those lights will be pushing the boundaries very close. And you're going to blow circuits if you start plugging in other things, computers, power packs. When you get to a studio, it is always, especially as the assistant, you always want to look for one, the circuit breaker, and two, if they have a outlet plan. Basically, that's going to determine what outlet is attached to what circuit breaker. If you have big lights, you want to keep those outlets separate. So I've got one sky panel light, which is a continuous light. It puts out a lot of power. I want that on one outlet, one circuit, and then I want another one on the other. That way, I'm not possibly blowing a fuse. Now, this little guy is a GFI tester. And this is an important thing to have on set if you're on location or you're not in the studio that you're already familiar with. You can go through there, you'll plug it in. One, it'll tell you if it's, first of all, opened so that you know that it's going to be working. And two, you can test if it's a GFI by clicking the button on top, and it'll pop it and it'll let it know like, okay, this is a GFI outlet. So yeah, those are going to have a lower threshold and they're going to pop pretty easy. So you want to be careful with those. So yeah, that's those. So let me pull in my computer over here and we'll go over the station for tethering. Just bring the whole kit. Here, you want to actually help me move this real quick? I'll just move it over just a little bit. All right. Just be careful. Yeah, so let's just go from the side. So this is an innovative, oh, let me unplug tether real quick. A second. So this is made by Innovative, the same people that have the carts. I like it because it's got a lot of options, and I'll go over those with you. This is a number 2A clamp, by the way, very important. I use it just to, it's a clamp, you know, you use it to clamp things. I usually have one on the side so I can put my tether cable over there and keep it out of my way. So let me take my computer off real quick, and then you can kind of see what's at the base. I've got these little clamps here. Let me undo this bottom so you can see it here. Okay, there's little clamps right here on top. Let him catch up here. There we go. Yeah, these clamps, they hold the computer down. So theoretically, let me tighten them real quick so you can actually see how strong this thing is. When I tighten these, okay, and I remove it from my base here, I'm gonna plug my computer too, because I don't need that right now. All right, I remove it from the base. I'm not holding the computer, and it stays. So like whenever you have like a ball head or something like that, you can have it at an angle. So that's this. It has kick legs on the bottom, and everything is on the bottom, which I'm about to show you. But if you look at the tripod plate, this is what I was talking about earlier. So the computer, it takes a, that guy right there. So this is that baby, that's that pin I was telling you about. So it goes in there, and I go in there. That's how I hold it onto that. But if I don't have a stand, the great thing about this is it has its own stand. So now, if I'm moving locations, I'm at a stand. This is not a sponsored post, by the way. I just like this product. So underneath it, let me take the computer off and eject the drive so that you can see everything that's on it. So I just ejected my drive. All right, pull that guy out of there. I'm going to lose this now. All right. Perfect. Then I just scoot it out of the way, and I can take out my computer off. Okay, computer's off. So let me just scoot this over here now. I keep most of this built. I'm going to share you a little tip with you too. Digital Tech I used to work with, he introduced me to Harbor Freight tools. They're cheap and they're durable. I put it over here. So this is what I stored it when I'm traveling. It'd beat up if it was out by itself. I think it's like 40 bucks from Harbor Freight or something like that. And inside, I've just got this little lip here, which holds it in place. And I literally just take the whole thing here, go in here, boom, and it fits in there. So you could theoretically, if you're in like a beach or something, you could run your computer out of this. And then you need to move, just shut it. And then underneath it, I've got a little bit of storage too. So I can wrap a tether cable or something, but I'm going to show you what I keep underneath now.
What was the name of that tray again?
What is it?
What was the name of that again?
This guy, this is made by Innovative. It's called the DigiPlate Pro.
Perfect.
They
Thank
make
you.
two different ones. So yeah, it's DigiPlate Pro. They make two different ones. They make this guy, which is like a cheese board, if you've heard of that. And they also make a smaller one, a light version that attaches to the tripod. So it kind of depends on how you want to use it. If you're just using it next to your tripod, then that other one's great and it's a little bit cheaper. But they have all these 3/8 drilled holes, and so the customization is endless. So you've got your handle on the back. I've got my drive, which is an SSD here, and I'm using a clamp to hold it on there, so that way I don't have any issues. It's out of sight, it's underneath. Just stick my plug in here, and then for those times when I don't have access to power, I've got, which I believe you guys have, it's just one of those Omni chargers, and so I can plug whatever I need into it, and I've got power now underneath. So I've used this before. It can do a pretty decent amount of power. It's just an in-between thing. Like I said, this is all for a laptop. I would not plug in. It does have a regular outlet, which is right over here, but I would not plug in. I would not plug in a regular Mac or something like that to it. It won't power for very long. So I'm just going to turn that off, and then I'm going to rebuild it real quick. Put that in there. You can see there. The way this works too, just so if you guys do buy them, it's literally just a screw here. All right, got like a little washer, okay, and then this is the device that holds it down. And you've got little wedges. So here's one of the wedges that I put underneath. It depends on the thickness of your computer. What's great about it is it doesn't hurt your computer. It has these little rubber stoppers on here, so they're it's rubber, so it doesn't hurt your computer. I would hate to have a computer in here that would get damaged. Now I'm just tightening it here. All right, get it held down here. That's tight. That's tight. All right, now the computer is solid. Okay, now I feel comfortable just going like this. Well, my lid will fall, but that's about it. Okay. So now I'm going to plug in my drive again. All right. So I've got my drive in there. Perfect. Now I'm going to take this guy and put it back on here. The cool thing about this guy is, if you notice, it's not a complete circle like a C-stand would be. It's got this little stopping. Let's see if you can catch it on the video. Yeah. So this is shaved right here. So it's round all the way around, and then it's shaved right here. And so what happens is that screw locks in here and it holds it so it won't move left and right. You can also attach this to your ball head, but for purposes of ease and time today, I just did this way. So let me feel where my nut is at for that. Line it up there. Okay, so now it doesn't move left and right. We're good. All right, so now I'm going to re-plug in my computer. And after this, after the Digital Tech little demo here on Capture One, I brought some grip equipment from Little Giant. And if we have time, we're going to go through that a little bit, okay? Okay, so I guess it's probably easiest if I do this and then share my screen. Correct?
Yeah, so
Yep. I'm going to hook up to the phase real quick.
Cool. So Chris is getting the Capture One session set up, so you all can now see the folder organization that he's playing before. So give him a second while he gets share his screen and move into.
All right, can you all hear me again? Let's see here.
Oh, here's a question. Someone asked, on average, how many drives are you carrying with you once you top?
As a digital tech or as a, oh, I'm right here. So many cameras. As a digital tech or as a assistant
Either one. I'm mostly asking for the digital tech.
or both? No, not a problem. Okay. Yes, I'll answer both. So digital tech. So it's another it depends question. So sorry about that. But if I'm bringing my own equipment, then 4 or 5. But if I'm using a photographer's equipment, it kind of depends because my job as digital tech is to make sure that they're set up as well for what they need. So I'll be bringing all their equipment, IMAX, monitors, whatever they need. So I would say maybe for a digital tech, 4 to 5 cases, maybe, depends how large they are. And then I'd say for a photo assistant, since you're bringing all of the camera's equipment, I mean, 10 to 20 cases. It also depends on if you're traveling. That picture on my, I'll show you real quick. I believe I had it. I'll reshare my screen here. View, present, share screen, share. Yeah, so this right here. Oh, go back. This guy right here, that's from a travel job. So this is in Colorado. So I'll break down everything for you here. So we've got, this is called a body bag, and there's no body in it. It has like a scrim gym. So it's got diffusion inside of there. It's got a tripod. It's got a Ellen Chrome, 2 large soft boxes, and a couple other things like that. There's also a speed rail, which I'll go over that later in there. And then each of these cases is a big Peli case. We've got a couple lighting kits. So we've got 2 basically camera case. Then we've got one of these guys has a big photo tripod and a big video tripod. Then we have 2 different packs. We've got a Pro 10, and then we have a D4. Both of those going to be in there. We also have 7Bs. I think everyone here knows what those are. Camera case, iMac is in this guy. So this on average, I would say this is a little bit more than this. So I would say maybe 1 luggage cart full of stuff. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 carts. So that's pretty average. So 8 carts maybe. On a big job, you'll have more, but he chose to do big cases. So if you have small cases, double that. In my case, a third of that size. So this is what I was talking about earlier, by the way. Am I talking about frames or flying stuff? This is a 20 by 20, and this is a scrim gym right here. So this is what's in that body bag. It collapses down to like super small, and then it's very mobile. So I hope that answers your question. So let me go down to, we're gonna go to digital tech stuff that we talked about earlier. So the only thing I don't have with me right now, since it's on my main drive that lives at home, is my workflow that I talked about with the folder structure for this. But I have a copy of that here so I can show that. So we'll jump right to the session. Open up my session. All right, let me stop share here and then I'll share it again. Okay, so I'm in the session now, okay? So opened up the session, starting on the far left here. You see that I've got, let me move this guy at the bottom. So I've got my name here, like we discussed earlier, 2021-04-14 underscore the client, which is AAU, the project, which is going to be ADC underscore demo. Sometimes that project might only be 1 word, but since I wanted to be very specific and make sure that I understood that this was for ADC and this was a demo, that's how I differentiated that. Everyone is different. Some photographers also don't like this date since all your photos are timestamped, but if you do it this date way, all your sessions will be in order. But if you just do it by name, then they're going to be alphabetical. So that's why you do it by date, because then you see in increments.
Chris, what will happen?
So yeah, so going over the folder structure, what I've done, you'll see there's 2 areas to be aware of: session favorites and the capture folder. So I always keep both of these open so I can switch back and forth. So as you see right now, the capture folder is set to capture. So if I was to capture, let me go to share. A new share here. think it's right down here, maybe. I think this is sharing here. Is this? I think everyone sees this right here. So if you look here, inside of the capture folder, I've got capture folder. So if I was to keep it as is, all those images will be here. I don't want that. I want them in each individual subfolder that I've created. Leave this alone. That's just settings. So we're going to be shooting a wine bottle, a guitar, and a knife. I also, for this job, it's really not essential, but I also have a test one. What this is used for is if I go to a location, if we're moving a bunch of locations and I don't know the name for this location yet, I will throw the test images into the test and sort it afterwards. Don't focus on something like that too long to where it keeps the photographer from photographing what he needs to photograph, he or she. So that's a suggestion I have. But since everything's already set up, I don't need the test folder. So we'll go back to capture one. Okay, so we're in capture one. If I'm going too fast too, please, someone speak up. So this is that exact same folder, and it's living on my desktop right now. As I mentioned, shoot internal, and then at the end of this, I'm gonna show you backing up via ChronoSync. So I shoot internal because it's my fastest, and I back up external. So I might have 3 or 4 drives on a shoot, and I'm backing up. ChronoSync can do it to all of them at the same time. So right now, for this demonstration, I've just got 1 drive with me. So I'm going to change capture location to the guitar, since that's what we're starting on. Set as capture folder, okay? So if you see this, I would recommend yes, because then it's going to, if it wasn't already in session favorites, it will move it up to session favorites. So right here, you see the capture icon, my guitar. So I'm going to go to the next page here, wake up the camera real quick. Did you turn it off? Oh, okay. Oh, that's the IQ4, isn't it? Yeah. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, thank you. You actually, so another why this is loading, another great thing about this plate is that I'm able to run the cord through it for the tether cable so it can't get ripped out immediately. You really don't want to have it straight to camera, straight to computer, because what happens is if someone steps on your cable, it's going to rip that off of your computer, possibly damaging the port and damaging the camera and damaging the cord. If you have it looped around it, it eliminates one of those. So Command K, fire an image real quick. All right, there's our first image. Woohoo! Thank you for setting that up, guys. Looks great here. All right. Thank you, Zoe, for setting that up. It looks good. Okay. So if you notice here, we've got guitar. This is our folder here. We discussed naming, okay? So if you look here in our next capture naming, I'm gonna open this, the little hamburger meat here. Sorry, this one. You'll see right here, I've got name, which is what I've set in this name column. I removed the date for this purpose because I'm already gonna have the name of that on my folder, so I know what date it is. The date's not changing for me, so there's no need to make the name super long. It's also in my image if I need to look at the time. So I've got AAU_80ski_demo. If you've noticed now, that's gonna be the name, _ destination folder name, _ camera counter. So if you notice here and you look over here, I've got the name, _ where it's going to, which is that destination folder name, and it has the original counter. You notice that didn't start at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It took what the camera's counter was at internally and gave it to me. So if for some reason this file's missing and I need to go find it, I know what that original file name was, that number from the IQ back. This system is sometimes glitched. I found that on some Canon cameras, it won't import the number, but you're given what you're given. So it's really just a redundancy plan. So yeah, that's the naming system, okay? So and it's showing you the guitar, okay? So let's say, let me actually go to I wanna make sure I go in order for you guys. Let's go over the preview now. So I'm with a photographer right now who's wanting to shoot. And obviously that's not really possible on the phase, but let's say that speed is an issue, okay? We're going to go to preferences, all right? So I went up here to capture. They don't see that window. Okay, let me do this. Let me just do a new share and just share my desktop. Okay, so I'm gonna go, can I see that? Okay, so I'm gonna go preferences under the capture one, okay? And I'm gonna go to image. It was already there because I did this last night. Then I have all these options for the preview size. So right now, this image, if I was to process it out for quick proof, it would be 2560 is the pixels, okay? If I want to make it smaller, then everything's going to start happening faster. Images will come faster, your processing will become faster, but you also need to check with your client to see what their limit is. You know, some of the clients are going to be really not happy if you're exporting a 640 sized pixel image for previewing. They won't be liking that. So you need to check with the photographer and the client. But that is my recommendation if you're having speed an issue. If you're not needing to process on the fly, change this to a low number, reprocess them after you're done, because it's just going to hold you up. So that's that image, okay? Let me look what we had here too. So we just went over naming. We just went over the image for the preview size. And now we'll just go back to the folder structure, just go over it one more time. You see here, I've got these different folders. If I open up a new Finder window here, and I go to my desktop, I've got my folder here, okay? Got my capture, you'll see, now they live here, right? Guitar, look at that, here's your IQ file. So now, let's go process one of these files real quick, which is gonna be obviously in your output. So I'm with the client, I need to process on the fly. We're still shooting, all right? Another shot's captured in about 2 minutes, there you go. All right, so there's another shot we need to process. So we're gonna go all the way over here to the little settings wheel, move my process recipes. I'm gonna go down to, let's say here, I want a TIFF, 8-bit full size, and I also want a quick proof, all right? This 8-bit TIFF is going to my retoucher, and this JPEG quick proof is going to my client. So your output is already set. They're both on. If you go here to process recipe, you go to file, you'll see that you've got your session subpath, okay? So let me uncheck JPEG, all right? I'm gonna go process for both of these images. I'm gonna process, all right? Tell me that they're big files. Then I'm gonna be ready to go to here, so I can find it. Look at that. So right here, I've got 2 different ones, okay? So if you want to, I did this on purpose. So you see I've got a TIFF and I've got a JPEG. But you notice that they're both named guitar. That's because they are in the same destination folder. So if you want to eliminate that, you go to subfolder name, all right? So let's say I want to start with TIFFs, all right? I'm gonna go to high res, TIFF. Now I'm gonna pre-process once I delete these. All right, we're gonna reprocess this and see what happens. So now that I've designated what should happen, if I didn't screw up, under high-res TIFF, you'll see that as a folder, and then it'll also still have the guitar. So now you'll be able to separate all of your high-res TIFFs and your JPEG so the client doesn't get backwards and you're giving them the wrong thing. So now I go to guitar. 1 second. Once it moves it, stand by. Come on. Didn't work for a second. So this is actually a new feature that you can do. You can search, which is nice. Actually, go check why it didn't work there. Yep, just making sure those are both TIFFs. They are both TIFFs. Ah, messed up, that's why. There's my folder. Where did it go? There we go. Cool. There we go. So you can differentiate it however you want to. Like I said, it's completely up to you. But now I can know which one is which. Which obviously, if I just have two that say guitar, guitar, then it's not going to be good. You're going to have to click to each individual one. So now at the end of the day, once I go through and I shoot the wine bar, or I shoot all these other stuff, I can know where what is what, and then I can put all the high-res tips in one section. Yeah, that's that. Does that make sense? Delete these now. Delete this one at least. And the same thing too, just for repetition, you can see this as well. So I'll also do this, and you can actually do it in front of it too. It kind of all depends on what you want to do. You can even put in, there's, like I said, the world is your, oh, standby. This is good to know how to do. So you can stop it, clear the queue. That's important. If you start, like, let's say I have 5,000 images in here and I start processing and I didn't mean to do that. I'm sure you guys already knew this, but under batch, you can stop it and then you can clear the history or stop queue, and then you'll be good to go. So I'm going to go to JPEG quick proof, subpath. Same thing as I did before here. We're going to go JPEG, sorry, subname, JPEG. All right. So we're going to process both of these. Let me get rid of this guy. And there we go. You can also put quick proof however you wanted to do it. But if you'll notice now, the size of this file should be, if I did my job correctly, 2560. So that's where, if you do set that preview size, you need to remember and write it down, because if you're just doing it for an import location, the quick proof is designed to process the preview size. That way it's called quick proof, that's why. So if you don't want it to be 2560, or you want it to be more or less, make sure that preview size is changed, because you need to do that before you export on this guy. So yeah, that's that. And like I said, since I'm just processing on the fly, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep these all till the end of the day. And then what I'll end up doing is I'll make a new folder, and I'll just have just the guitars, and then I'll move just the JPEGs and high-res tips in there. But for the sake of processing on the fly, this is the quickest way that I've found. Like I said, everyone has their own system. Everyone finds what's comfortable to them. That's really all that matters. All right.
So I actually have a question
Capture
about.
record, we already went over that. Let's go over backup real quick.
I have a
Chris,
question
All right.
real fast.
we have a question for
So all of these files right now are on my desktop. All
Chris.
whopping 4 of them, okay? You see
Hey,
everything
Chris,
here.
can you hear us?
So I'm going to go in here to my, let's see. Yeah. Huh? Oh, I can't. Oh, you know what it is? Oh, my volume is off. Right. Can someone hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, it's all good. I just had a question about storing files actually, like afterwards.
Yeah.
So obviously, like when you're shooting with the phase one, your files are massive and it takes up all your space.
Yep.
And of course, like when you're shooting, obviously, like for a big campaign, or even for like homework or something,
Yeah.
you shoot hundreds, if not thousands of images, and you're only going to use 1 or 2.
Yep.
What do you do with those files afterwards? Like, how do you go through that process of getting rid of files and figuring out which ones to get rid of? Like, how do you go through that process?
Yeah, so the answer to that question is, I'll tell you how I do it, and I'll tell you how the people I work for do it. So the big photographers, they never delete. They don't delete, they don't delete. They have me put it in the trash. If I'm culling through the images, okay, I'm looking through them after they've all been shot. You see funky eyes, you see out of focus, delete. Most of them have the space to be able to keep it. For me personally, I do a first round, second round, third round. I get rid of all my first rounds in the trash, and I get rid of them. I do, because at that point, I know that I'm not going to need those files. And if I do need them for any reason, that's on me. So it kind of depends on since we're all at this stage where we can't afford, millions of dollars in hard drives, and servers and all this stuff like that, don't really have the luxury of being able to do that, especially with a phase camera. I owned a Fuji GFX for a month until I realized how large the file sizes were. It kind of depends on your current structure, but that is what I recommend. I know that shooting to the desktop is a little bit tricky when you don't have a lot of space, and especially as a student, since these are computers, but that's why I also mentioned if you're doing multiple day shoot, create another session. Don't shoot from the same session. If it's for the same homework assignment, it's spread throughout multiple days, new session, name it by the day. So that's going to help you, because then what you can do is once you've created that session and you've already done it, then you can put that on another drive and not have it on your internal storage. The ideal goal is to not have everything on your internal storage. Once you're done with it, move it. It's only a temporary solution.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And unless you want to spend, like I said, $2,000 on an SSD, then you're fine. But that gets very pricey, and at this stage, it's really not necessary.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's my recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So the thing to note though too, and this I'll go over this in the background, the backup is that if you do delete files from trash, you're going to notice that all those files, so I've got my A catalog here, it's on my desktop. If I delete them on my desktop and I've already backed up, it's going to see those missing files and it's going to move them to your archive. So if space is an issue, make sure that after you do a synchronization, you check your archive files. And if it's files that you don't want anymore, get rid of them, or else that space that you cleared up is not going to do anything because it's still there. It's in the archives. So let's go here to, does anyone have any other questions? Feel free to ask. Not a problem. I have a feeling this one will be the one. Okay, so we're going to create a new task here, okay? So if you notice, this is where I clicked on it. So this is ChronoSync, okay? For those of you, this is the loading page you get when you first pop in, all right? So I'm going to create a new task. And usually what I do is I usually differentiate where it's going from to where it's ending up. So it's starting on the desktop. Let's say that we're going to do desktop 2. And like I said, again, this is however you want to differentiate it. It's whatever you need to do. So I try this. I call this drive Glyph Mobile. All right. And then what you can do too is if I save this, everything that I shoot on a desktop and put onto Glyph, as long as I update the root folders, then this is something, the settings that I'll already have. So I want this to work for everything that I'm doing. Every shoot that I have on the desktop that I'm wanting to do it to Glyph Mobile, I can use this as my baseline. So right now it's empty. You've got your source target and your destination target. Both of them are empty. Now, for example, my source target is going to be on my desktop. Remember, I'm shooting to the desktop. I'm going to select this. Now, if you remember, I'm going to really quickly, I'm going to copy this name over, because if you remember, I said that it's reading everything in here. Now, if I go to my drive and I set it to just put it on my drive, which you'll see what I'm about to do. So I'm going to select this as my root, okay? We'll worry about this in a second. And I click choose. I'm going to go over here to my Glyph drive. I have a special capture one setting here. I've already created the folder on here because it needs to be like this. But if this folder was not already on here, I would need to create a new folder so that the contents of that, because like I said, if I just selected this, all of those contents would just be scattered throughout here. It needs that subfolder to know that where it's going if you want it to be organized. So the folder structure needs to be the same. So it's already here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Glyph Mobile, select ADC, boom. All right, so now I've got my source start, which is from desktop, this folder here. And then I've got right here under Capture One Sessions on my Glyph Mobile, and I've got this. So now I want to mirror left to right. I want my drives to be the same. I want both of these sizes to be the same. So I'm going to do synchronize detections, archive replace files. Right now, there shouldn't be any replace files because my left is my most up-to-date one. This one is just getting an update of what I've done. So there really should not be much of anything. If I've moved things around, it might go to archive. So I'm going to click this button right here. So mirror left to right, we're all good here, move to archive, boom.
Chris, what are the risks of not using ChronoSync and drag your files?
Please, please, for the love of everything, do not drag and drop. You don't get a verification. You have a synchronization. I even do a synchronize again, just to make sure that everything is good. You get a ding every time. It's scanned all of my things, all right? And it's good. So look at this. So I'm gonna go over here. And here's what I do now too. After I run a synchronization, I keep 2 Finder windows open. So I have my desktop here. All right, I'm going to open another one on my glyph. But this is the trick. I like to keep my, and this is just my workflow, but I like to keep 2 folders open at one time so that I can analyze them both. And I'm not going one by one. What I'm doing is I'm keeping, this was my source. My top one was my source. This was my backup. So I'm going to go here. And if I did it right, when I click get info, all right, geez, look at the files on that. 7.3. He's trying to take up all my space. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my demo here and get info. Boom, they're the same size. So you see how that works here? So I've got my source target and I've got my destination target. And you're checking for this. Now, if you want to talk about your volumes, you'll see that there's 67 items on this one and there's 56 on this one. Now, there's always going to be discrepancies like that. So it kind of depends. As long as this lines up, you're good. That's what you're really looking for, is this size difference. But yeah, that's how you can find. We talked about the capture record. We looked for volume and size. That's where you'll look at this, and you'll know what the volume, the number of files that are on there. But like I said, this is what most digital techs look for, is the size matches. Now, let's say I do this. Let's make a change, okay? I'm gonna go capture here. I'm gonna go guitar. I'm gonna delete this image, all right? I'm moving this to the trash. So right now, this was my other one. So I put this here because it was in a different spot. But watch this. I'm gonna go here, back to synchronize. I'm gonna mirror it left to right again. And if I did my job right, that file that I just deleted should end up there. So if I go back over here, sorry, wrong folders. All right, and go to archive items, boom. Under the capture folder, I've got that file. So you look at the differences. That's why there's extra here, is because I've already deleted them. So that's why these are in the archive. So before I join this today, all right, this is what I have in my template. I have untitled folder 1 through 8, okay? I keep that in my template. So when I get to a job, I don't have to click, new. I just rename those, and then I get rid of the ones that I don't need. So the reason why there's more on this drive is because you notice if I go to the capture here and I capture here, now these guys match, all right? But when this drive was looking to sync to this drive, it noticed that I had all these extra items, and it recognized that there was a change. And so now it's all in archive. And this is why archive is so important. You don't want to just immediately move it to trash. You'll never know what it's doing. But that's why after a shoot, you want to check your archive to make sure that's where something is and where it's not supposed to be. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions? You want to run through it again?
I have a question.
Yes.
Does the Chrome sync only work on Macs?
Oh, that's another question I don't know.
That's what it says on the website, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, on quick research, that's what I saw as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's a possibility. Like I said, I don't use it on Windows. There are other options. You can look at Carbon Copy Cloner. It doesn't work the same way, but I use that for years.
What was it called?
Carbon Copy Cloner.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be on Windows. There are equivalents though that you will be able to find. And sometimes you can even message the people. I like ChronoSync because the person that runs it, he's very easy to reach. And so if there's an issue or anything like that, you can make that decision and message them. But like I said, they all work basically the same way, where you're just moving it. But the other thing that I mentioned before is bilateral. So it's really important to know where your main drive is, what you're doing your work off of. So let's say I'm with a photographer and I've left my workstation, which happens a lot because the photographer likes to step in, do some work to the photos, make it their look, come back. Let's say they made a mistake. Let's say that they upgraded and they did all their file stuff on this, okay? They made all of their modifications here. So I'm not gonna make any modifications here, but what you would do is you would do this. So right now, this was the settings we did. The photographer, he or she made a change on this drive, which is my backup drive. So in case I made a change here or he made a change here, I'm gonna do synchronize bidirectional, all right? So now what's gonna happen is these two drives are gonna talk to each other, okay? You've got your A drive, you've got your B drive. A is going to speak to B, and B is going to speak to A. And whichever one has the newest timestamp, it's going to be replaced. So if in capture one, if you go here to, if you go here to your cache, all right, you've got your thumbnails and you've got your proxies. Let's say that this is a change. Maybe they changed the color in the session on another one. That would be enough of a change that it would register. Right now, there isn't any here because I have not changed anything. But that would differentiate it enough. So bidirectional means that they're going to look at each other, and whichever has the newest one, it's going to be archived on that file. So if I do this, it really shouldn't do anything right now because there's really not much that's been done. But this is a fail-safe here. All right, you've got your archive, so it's not immediately deleting it. So if you made a mistake, it's reversible. This is why you have, I don't know why they give you this option to move to trash or delete immediately. In my opinion, I'd never do that because I want to be in control of what it's doing. I want to see what it's doing. So if I go back here, I go to archive, capture, see, it's done nothing because there was nothing that needed to be redone. Whereas this is from the original. Does that make sense? I see some heads spinning. Okay, so I'll run through it one more time because this I cannot emphasize this enough. So starting again here, okay? So we're gonna go mirror left to right, all right? Changing the synchronized operation for a previously synchronized test may lead to undesired. I'm gonna say yes. Sometimes it will give you the option to keep the settings best was, you know? So this is still the same, this is still the same. Mirroring left to right. I want this drive. This is a matter of only if this drive is the most updated one. But making sure that you move to archive means that if you made a mistake and there was something that was newer here, you won't have it immediately deleted. So just check those archives. So I'm shooting to this drive. I'm going to continue shooting. I'm going back to capture one. All right, I'm committed. Wake up the camera. I'm going to wake the camera up. Come on, buddy, wake up for me. Big camera, like it takes a little time. Big camera takes a long time. All right, she just came back to life. Come on, buddy. Give it a second. All right, so this is something you always want to check here. See, camera's not connected, so I'm gonna unplug it real quick. Plug it back in. Do not spend too much time trying to troubleshoot. If it does not immediately work for you, or not immediately, but if it does not work for you right out of the bat, quit capture one and start it again. This is why I mentioned having cards on hand because Capture One is a very picky software and there is a lot of times that you're gonna have to reset it. The sign that you'll see is that on the face camera, I'm sure you already knew this, but it will have this blinking 0000 with what looks like picture icons. It's showing that it does not have a system that it's gonna shoot to. So I'm going to quit Capture One because it's not working, all right? Exiting out of it is not enough. Go and quit Capture One. Unplug your tether cable. All right. Open Capture One again. Sometimes you need to restart the computer too, or not the computer, but the camera. This is always the first step I take if I'm having issues with something. All right. So I'm going to load my session here. Wait for it to load. Yeah, we're going to turn the camera on and off. Like I said, these are all, and this is something that's really important. As a digital tech, you got to remain calm. If you start to freak out, the photographer freaks out. The photographer starts to freak out, the client freaks out. Digital tech is one of those positions that you just have to relax and work slowly to an extent. Don't rush around because you're going to start knocking stuff over, especially if you're on a still life set. No bull in China shops here.
And it's great that these kind of things happen live because this is exactly what happened in every photo shoot, and understanding how to fix it professionally. It is the job of you as a digital tech. So
yep,
great that this happened.
I worked NC cameras back up running. So Jared restarted the camera. All right, I unplugged tether, plugged it back in. It really doesn't make a difference which one it was. It's just a matter of you got to remain calm. You got to work through the things, try your things. Start off. Quit Capture One. That doesn't work. Restart the camera. If that doesn't work, restart your computer. If that doesn't work, call Ken Clickinger. Yeah, so those are my recommendations to just start things off. I did a Walmart shoot December of last year, and we had an IQ3 100 that had insane issues. To this date, we still don't know what happened. Digital Tech, for about an hour, we tried troubleshooting. We had 4 or 5. This also brings me to the next point. Always have backup tether cables. Do not come with one tether cable. They are probably one of the most finicky things on set.
Hey, Chris, can you show us the tether cable? Oh, do you have it available?
So this is something I learned from a Digital Tech that I worked with from RC. So this is my tether cable, okay? One of them. So this, you buy these at Harbor Freight, okay? It's this like protective sheath. Sprinkler systems use them, other things use them. They're meant for like, quite honestly, I don't even know what the purpose is, but this is what we use them for. So this runs, not only does it protect the cord, but if a client steps on it, it makes a crunchy noise. And so they immediately are like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And so they don't put all of their weight on it. So if you're shooting, it protects the cable. It makes it a little bit heavier too. And it doesn't make it so like you can't twist it as well. So like if you're gonna like do something crazy, it's just a protection for you and your computer, because if your tether cable gets ripped out, there's a good chance that your computer is gonna be flying.
How long on average do you think you need of a tether cable?
So it's tricky. If you're using a cart like I have here, then you're very mobile. So it depends on your size of your setup. So let's say that I'm going to be here. The regular tether tool length, which I believe it's 25 feet, I think it is. 15 meters. Yeah. Okay. So whatever the length of that one is, that's fine. But what I'm seeing issues with is USB-C. So I worked with a guy recently, and the repeaters, you know, when you try to extend it, if you're doing a system like this, you don't need it because you can move closer to the photographer. But if you've got a big innovative cart and you're working in tight spaces, you're very limited. So on a cart like that, you can do a longer tether cable. I'm actually going to give you all the name of something. I shouldn't do this because it's an inside secret here, but I'm going to give this to y'all because it's very important. There's a company in the Bay Area that makes custom cables. They are the best tether cables you can buy. They are very pricey, but if you're serious about it, you make a custom cable. I worked with a Digital Tech recently that makes these cables, or that goes in and has these cables made, and it's a USB-C all-in-one, and it has a power converter in the center of it so that it keeps the speed up. Speed is important. So the company is called Nunex, N-E-W-N-E-X. They're in the Bay Area.
Chris, would you mind typing that in the chat?
Yes. Let me see if I'll just copy and paste the website. So they will make cables. It's a custom cable. You can determine, hey, I want a right angle. Hey, I want it to go straight in. Right angles are the way to go, by the way. And then you can also choose like a nylon coating for it too. So if you want a stronger cable. So let me do this here real quick. Chat window. Everyone. So it's called Nunex. USB-C. They make other tether cables too, but it's called Nunex. Oh, my autocorrect was on.
We have also 2 questions in the chat. Greg is asking if that cable is from Harbor Freight.
That's not the cable, but the cover is from Harbor Freight. That is correct.
The cable is from Tether Tools.
Yes, the cable is from Tether Tools, and then this guy is from. Yeah, so this little attachment, and the way you load them here, they open up like this. So literally it just opens up. So you just stick it in there. So that's how this works. But if you want, I'll demonstrate too. I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds horrible. So it's really handy. And then, yeah, so that's that.
We have another question in the chat from Michael. Is asking, what other cables should I have extras of?
Yes, so USB, it depends on which computer you're using. I have a USB-C computer. So let me actually I have this little bag. So I bring my computer bag with me, but then I have this bag too. These are amazing. It took me a while to find these. I stole this from a Digital Tech as well. The idea, not the actual case. Container Store. This is like ripstop nylon inside of it, and then it's plastic. So this is where I keep them. They make a bigger one too, but I have multiple of everything. So if I need adapters, dongles, so I've got USB-C, USB-C. I've got like 3 or 4 of those in different lengths. I've got USB-C to USB like B, like the old USB 3 type things. And then I've got multiple dongles.
Very important because you never know which computers they have. Not everyone has the newest Mac. And if you have an old Mac and you don't have an USB-A, you'll be in problems. So
Yep.
adapters these days are very important.
So some of the higher end digital techs that I work with, and I have one at home, I just don't like to travel with it because then I would not have it at home. Look up a company called CalDigit, and they make, it's a powered adapter, and it's got everything, and it's got HDMI, it's got, it's literally everything. I could not even name everything that's on there. It also has USB, and it's great. Some people put it underneath that clamp that I showed you on the bottom. They'll attach it to the bottom there, and then you've got everything you need. But for me, I want to keep this set up as light as possible and as easy. So if I'm having a USB 3 and I need them to adapt to this, sorry, USB 2, then I'll just use this Apple one. I also have one from Amazon, whichever one works better. So these are great because they're super light, and if you have a heavy tether cable, they won't pull on your cord slot. If you do like something like this, one of these dongles, and it's hanging down, you're going to have a damaged port pretty soon. So that's why I don't like these on my setup. I just use these at home. Does that answer your question, Michael? I know I didn't give you a number of cables, but I would say a good rule of thumb is to have at least 2 or 3, and I wouldn't do the same brand too. So like, for example, I had an Apple USB 2 converter and a regular one from Amazon, because sometimes some systems like other ones, like I've had issues with the Phase and the Apple one and vice versa.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. This was very helpful.
Of course. So yeah, that's that. So if there's not any more, how are we doing on time?
Oh, we're doing great. Yeah, we still have 35 minutes more.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I know you have a few things you want to demo with the frames.
Yep.
I don't know if you finish with the Capture One session, but you're welcome to like move on into.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions about, I'll be done with Capture One unless they have any questions. I know it seems like a lot of overwhelming information, and the only way you're going to learn it is by repetition. So over the next assignments, just keep practicing it. It's okay if you're slow, but the more comfortable you become, the faster it is. I know it's kind of common sense there, but that's my recommendation. I was very uncomfortable in the beginning, and I still am on certain things. It's important to relay that to the team to know what they're comfortable with. Don't go in over your head, because especially the digital tech position, it is so dangerous. I mean, you're holding the files to this job. It could be $1 million project. You're holding $1 million basically. If there's issues with these files, it's on you. And I've seen photographers make the digital techs pay for it. So it's really important to not bite off more than you can handle, but also to remain calm and just to do what you can. You know, if you're having an issue, let the photographer know. Let him know that it's not something you're comfortable with. And if you're looking at images 5 minutes ago, let the photographer know that there's an issue with tether. I've watched digital techs try to figure it out while that the photographer thinks that the images are coming in. They're still shooting. They're wasting their energy. How are the files looking? Oh, there's an issue. Why didn't you tell me?
And I just want to emphasize on how important is the communication between the digital tech and the photographer. If you are shy with your photographer and you hide things from him, he will never even consider you to hire you again. And that possible is your last job in the industry. You probably will have to move to another state or another country to find a job, because that photographer will burn you forever. So make sure that you always keep professional, and communication always is the key. One of the things that I want to emphasize too is how important it is to start with the production assistant job, because that's how you can oversee what the others do. Jump into a Digitech position right away, it's challenging, especially in big jobs, because you can screw some things up if you don't have the experience. So working slow with the small positions will guarantee you that you learn how they do it, how they work. And little by little, you'll feel confident to jump in the position. Oh, Chris, we have another question here. What's the best way to network with you? I just connect with you on LinkedIn, or one of the main reasons why I took this class is to work as a digital tech after graduation. This is my last semester.
Yeah, so Facebook groups. So Edwin will be, I believe, inviting you guys to a Facebook group that all ADC people have gone through. And then, yeah, LinkedIn, that's a great way to do it as well. Really, there's many ways to do it, but I really think that what's popular right now, APA events. APA is a very big one. One thing I didn't touch on, actually, that brings me a good point. If you don't mind, I'm gonna explain this real quick. When you're working as a first assistant and you're working for a travel photographer, lots of times the equipment's on you. So when you're traveling with that photographer will ask you to take the equipment and you'll probably show up earlier. That brings me to my next point. You want to get an APA membership and get a professional media card. You will be paying out the wazoo. I mean, it won't be an expense for you, but the photographer will be very mad if he's getting thousands of dollars worth of luggage costs. If you get a membership and you get a professional media card, your rate is $50 per bag, and you can have up to 75 pounds. So when we travel to New York and we bring our innovative cart, it's 74 pounds. So you will be paying overages if you do not have a media account. And as you know, for most airlines, if you have a, like first bag is usually like 30 or 40 bucks. And then it increases, second bag is like maybe 60, 50 bucks. And then third bag is like $250. I've made that mistake before. That's if you don't have a professional media card. Now I'll show you what it looks like. This is also important too. I don't know if anybody's ever traveled and TSA's ever harassed you about you asking them to hand check your stuff. I don't like my hard drives going through the scanner, even though it probably won't affect them. You show them this, all right, your professional media card, and it even explains on the back, please extend privileges and, you know, basically shows them that you're not just some hobbyist and you'll be taken more seriously in the airport.
And to be part of the American Photographic Artists, you just need to sign in with them, and you have no idea the amount of benefits you get as a photographer. And as a basic membership, it could be $50 a year, which is not as expensive. So I will share the link too in case anyone is interested.
I joined that my senior year. I was a part of it in Texas as well, and we didn't have a very good chapter there. It wasn't very active, but use that to your advantage. The chapter here is very active. Kim Clickinger is actually on the board as well, and Edwin's a part of a big part of APA as well. It's a really big part. ASMP is good. My insurance was through them, but I feel like in the Bay Area, ASMP does not have the professional media cards. I believe APA is the only one that has them. Maybe it's something you can talk to about ASMP. I was a member for ASMP for 4 years, and I've had more benefit in 1 year of APA than 4 years of ASMP.
Yeah.
Coronavirus has kind of made it a little bit tricky because, you know, the networking in person isn't there, but, you know, hang in there. The virtual networking has been good as well. So if you want to network, APA is also a good option.
Chris, we have 2 questions from Lacey. Did you ever rent gear, or did you always travel with it? And which insurance do you prefer?
Yeah. So I used the Fireman's Fund for a long time for my own insurance. If you are a student, they are great. They gave you great student rates. As soon as you graduate, they hate you. They do not give you good student rates. I actually left them after I pushed them many years on Edwin in the academy. I think it was maybe like 250 bucks for 20,000 worth of owned and 25,000 worth of rented. And then it jumped to like $800 a year after you graduate. The best insurance company that I've seen out here is Tom Picker. What's going to become really essential for a first assistant or any type of production role, you're going to be requesting a lot of COIs. Anytime you fill out a permit for a photo shoot like SF Film Commission or anything like that, they're going to request a certificate of insurance. For smaller companies like Fireman's Fund, you have to ask them for it, and then you've got to wait for them to get it to you. Whereas a COI through Tom Pickard, you email them and you can fill it out yourself, or they can send it to you within a couple minutes.
How do they do about COI on the personal body? Like when I work for Insomniac, I have to get up to $1 million on personal.
Yep.
Just because we have pyrotechnics. Is that they'll just get that to me?
It shouldn't be an issue. I've seen the production company I work with has 2 million. So yeah, they're usually I can't tell you how many people I've seen. That was my biggest question when I would go to these things. And for the longest time, I've been trying to figure out, don't do the Hartford. You know, nothing against them, but I worked for RC for a year and a half, and I've dealt with them so many times, and they're difficult. You get a new person every time, and they have like a 48-hour turnaround for their COIs, which is just unreasonable for lots of things. And I'm not talking bad about anyone. I'm just trying to be honest with you guys. If you need COIs quick, Tom Pickard is the fastest I've seen. So I don't know the rates. I don't have Tom Pickard right now. Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
As an advice, anytime that you need to buy a COI to work in a big company, make sure you include it in your budget, in your invoice. When I had to get my work in Instagram, their insurance is so high to just get in the building. So, and COIs can be very expensive and pricey, depends on what the company requires. So make sure you include that as part of your invoice.
Most definitely. And charge for the time that you've got to charge for the time you also spend making that COI too. I mean, it's quite a process, but it's nothing to be scared of. But yeah, were there other questions? Let's see here.
Yeah, I think
sorry, go ahead.
All of them. Yeah, I've been reading all to you.
Yeah, the gear. I didn't answer the gear question.
Oh yeah, the gear. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes and no. As far as digital tech equipment goes, yeah, there's always the option to rent. If we're talking about photo equipment, I feel like every production I've been a part, there's been some type of rental. And it's usually the assistant's job to pick it up, make sure it's all working order and all of that type of stuff there. But if you do travel with it, I've been traveling a lot this year, and it's the first time in my life I've ever done that with equipment. And so for the longest time, I thought, oh, it cannot be cheaper to fly with it than it is to rent it. Wrong. It's actually cheaper to fly with it than it is to rent it, especially in like New York or something like that. Rental houses really get you with the price. Even if it's a matter of like an APC battery, like a battery backup, it can cost it can cost a lot of money. But yeah, so that's my recommendation. If you can travel with it, if you have a media pass. If you don't, rent it because it's going to be too expensive.
Yeah, Greg says that he's scared of insurance since he has 40K of equipment, camera and lighting.
So you know what? That's a great amount of equipment, but I wouldn't be too scared about it because, like I said, Tom Pickard, and I'm sure there's other great ones out there as well, but they don't usually even do lower ones. So I would say they specialize in larger equipment and coverage. But yeah, 40K is that would be scared of that. It's not too bad. I mean, if you had $1 million worth, then you know your premium is going to be pretty high. But I would say under 100,000. I mean, I'm no insurance expert too, so yeah. Maybe Greg, maybe let me know what you think, what you find out. But yeah, so if we have any more questions, yeah, feel free to send them, and I'll answer them. I've got a couple things I want to walk through. That Little Giant was gracious enough to donate for me to go through. So if you want to do that,
we're gonna jump into Jared's camera, and then we'll.
Stop this video. I'm in.
Ooh. Oh my God. Spotlight. Now we're gonna remove this camera and spotlight. Cool.
So Jared, I'm here. Okay. So let me get my stuff out of the way here. I'm just all over the place. Okay, so can you actually help me? Let's move this over. Thank you. All right, we got all sorts of goodies here. So I am under the, I know I was a student here as well, so I know the equipment that we have here, and I'm not bringing equipment that you guys don't have to rub in your face. You don't really even need it right now. I am bringing this for the purpose of introducing it to you. So if you do get on set as an assistant or a PA or something like that, you know what it is, or at least have an idea, been introduced to it. It's not all new to you. One less new thing means that you can learn one more thing. So this right here, I'm actually going to go down my list because I've got a list of stuff. Okay, so usually this guy will come like this. So this is called a junior debate pen, all right? So you're gonna look at the bottom of the stand, you're like, how do I attach a light? Where do I put it? So this is a low rise, this is a low boy combo stand, 2 risers, so that determines the number of risers. So when you get a grip truck, you'll see there's multiple levels, okay? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's got 2 levels of rise. Again, start from the top, all right? Then work your way up. This is a low stand, so if I started from the bottom, it really wouldn't make much of a difference, but just get in the habit of doing it. All right, so that's that. I'm gonna drop this so it's not in my face. So you got 2 options here. This guy, which is gonna be the sturdiest, which is gonna be center, or on here, you've got a angled one here. So you can do, it's actually not angled, you can do it angled, but it goes up through here with this. So then these are your classic like C-stand type baby pin mount, all right? You can attach a bronze color, a hot light, whatever you want to attach. So that gets hidden again. So and this guy goes in here, and then you're good to go. So if I wanted to put like a global head, this being a global head, all right? Again, I mentioned always having it on the right, all right? Then you lock it into play. You've got your global head, okay? So now you can do it off center. Now it still works if you wanted to do it this way, okay? But this is how they come. So that is a low boy 2 riser. There is a full size 2 riser, and it's going to be a lot bigger and a lot heavier. I don't have that here because it didn't for the session. This is one of my favorites. All right, so I think a lot of you have probably seen these. Let me remove this accessory so you just see the bottom thing. Okay, a lot of people call this a super clamp. On set, it's called a maper, all right? I believe the full name is maper super clamp, but you're working photographer, or if you're working as a second assistant, first assistant's gonna be like, I need a maper with a J hook, all right? So let's say we're working with like power packs. Bring this back in here, all right? You attach your maper clamp, all right? This is the maper, and then you got a J hook, which is in my other hand. J hook. See why they call it J hook? J. All right, so that goes in there. And now, if you're doing something with water, if you're on a beach or something, your power pack is off the ground, away from water, off the ground, and also acts as a sandbag. You want to go a little bit lower with it, the weight will be towards the bottom. So that's that guy. This also comes with another attachment called a spigot. A little bit less noticeable. This is a spigot, all right? So it's very similar, it's very repetitive, just like that guy, except let's say we're in an industrial warehouse and we want to put a light on the ceiling, all right? You use the maper clamp, super, super nice. Put the spigot in there. And now you can attach a light from the ceiling, or if you want to attach it from the side, you want to have 2 lights here. And options are endless. So that is the maper with J hook and spigot. Actually, I want to add something to that. So I was working for RC, and we did a shoot for a headphones company. And I needed to install, he has these like pipelines, kind of like you guys have up here. And we needed to install a beauty dish with a bronze color head on the ceiling. Well, we had a head extension. So I ran the pack to the very back of the room, which is where all the other packs were, all the way up. And I used a maper clamp with a spigot and then safety tape, all right? you got talent underneath there, all right? You use a safety cable and you attach it to the head and to the mafer clamp or to the pole. So if for some reason the mafer clamp or the spigot comes apart, you're catching it and it's not dropping on your talent's head or shattering glass all over the place. So if you are doing any type of rigging or you have something that's in a sketchy spot, never ever put it without a safety cable. There's like 20 of these in the grip chart. Again, we're going to see that similar type of thing that you see on all of these. This is a Carlini clamp. So what I've seen these used for is we have a
Okay. I need to play with tubes. So.
Yeah. I'll just grab a piece of plexi here. So let's pretend that this is a piece of plywood, all right? And I'm in a still life studio. I'm on sawhorses right now, all right? There's a sheet of plywood here and we've got seamless right here. Well, we don't want a full wrap, like a full cove type deal. We want to have an edge for our seam. Well, again, we're pretending this is plywood. You will put your seamless or colorate and attach it to this. You'll use this guy here, all right? And this will attach. You grab a C-stand, all right? C-stand with an arm and a knuckle. You'll attach this and you're able to control the distance of if you want to pinch it forward, if it's catching too much light. So this is how you want to attach a Cardellini clamp to some sort of background. This thing has endless possibilities. Working on a project right now. We've got a year-long time lapse in Napa with GoPros, and we use 2 Cardellini clamps and 2 Goble heads and an arm, and we attach them to these metal poles, and we're able to have a track basically. So this is a very useful tool to have. Cardellini clamp. And it comes in a few different styles. So you notice the difference here. This is going to be a center Cardellini. So basically, look here, you've got the front Cardellini's here, then the weight's going to be on the back here like this. But if you've got something like a center pole or something like that, for example, a C-stand or a C-stand, and we want a lot of light. All right, it's going to be the closest to center possible. All right, so the light goes here. So it's whatever. They'll both get the job done. This is a 3-inch. They make them in 6 inches, all sorts of stuff. One. So, on a grip truck, you'll have 3 different sizes. Starting with the largest, 3. 2, this is the most commonly used one, all right? 1. So, again, 3, 2, 1. So 2 is the most commonly used. Holding up seamless paper, all that. 1 is going to be maybe like a cloth if you're doing like a China silk or something along with that. That's what that's used for. All right. Now, I already went over top boxes, but you've got different sizes too. So we've actually got an extra size here. This is a full apple, all right? Again, let's review our this is New York, all right? New York. We've got Chicago and Texas. LA, all right? Don't forget that. It's not a full apple, all right? Then we're gonna go here. We've got a half apple. All right? You wanna look at the differences here? That's a half apple. Then we're going to go into a quarter. All right. And then we're going to go into pancake. Which is actually basically the same thing. This one's just a little bit, this is not a quarter, this is actually just a pancake. There's usually a pancake, okay? So let's picture that being a pancake. I'm sorry, a quarter, and then pancake. So yeah, those are your out boxes. On the grip truck, I actually can't recall. I really only use a pancake, quarter, sorry, a half and a full. Sometimes if you need to get the camera a little bit elevated, pancake is good. I've also seen people drill baby plates to them, so you can attach a light from the ground. Probably see if it was there. So that's that. Moving on to the fun stuff. I need your help with this one. Yeah. So, as an assistant, this will be one of the most common things that you do. Building frames with wraps or silks, whatever you want to call them. In a grip chuck, you'll get this back. These are corners or ears, is what they call them. Okay. So just so you can see everything, I'll dump them out. This assortment of stuff is meant to go with your frame. What tools you need to make. For the purpose of today and what I can fit in my car, this is going to be a 6x6 frame with China silk. Okay, so China silk is just going to be, think of it like a bed sheet type deal. There's multiple levels of diffusion. Multiple levels of diffusion. China silk is just one of those levels. It is on the lower end as far as thickness goes. All right, so this is going to be China silk. All right, look how thick it is. You can still see. So it gets thicker from there. And the bags always have a label too. So it says it right there. China silk 6x6. So let's build our 6x frame. And I'm going to teach you how to put this on. So usually they come with like some type of electrical tape, so that way you hold it together. All right. Then you'll just take those off. Then you'll lay out your frame. So perfectly right. This is a heavier duty version of the Westcott spring gym. This is a platypus clamp. All right. People will use these for foam core boards. You put a foam core in there, or some type of, they call them bead boards, to give it some light, and it's literally just like a type of wrench there. You just lock it in place, and it's got a pin adapter, so you can attach it to a C-stand. I use this a lot for like bounce. If I don't have another light, or I don't want to haul another light in, I'll get like a white foam board, and then I'll just throw this in there, and I'll add some bounce. So these things are $100, just so you know. I would not recommend buying them. Yeah, these are all in the grip truck. This is not something that you need to buy. These are corners, all right? Pretty self-explanatory. You make sure that it's all the way out, all right? And then you're gonna go in here, and the corner, lock the corner, all right? Lock the other corner, make sure it's all the way pushed in. That's all of it. Here's a feature step again. Very noisy process. All right. This guy's very rigid. All right, very heavy too. You'll need two people to assemble. These guys are the ears. This is how you attach this frame to stands. You can do it on many different stands. Because my stands are different, I'm going to do a 2 C-stands. I would usually like to put these on a combo stand. The cool thing about a combo stand, I did not discuss with you earlier, is you got this type of adjustment. So if I'm on an incline, so it's very incline heavy, you've got this adjustment. So let's say that this is the lower, but you loosen this knob and you can offset your weight. So let's say that this is down the hill or this is up the hill. Now, if the hill was like this would be level. So combo stands have this, obviously C-stands don't. And they get bigger from there. Yeah, do you have two double heads to those? Okay. So while he's grabbing me those rolling stands, I'm gonna attach these ears, all right? I like to keep the knuckles, all right, on the outside. So that way they're not impeding your interior. You wanna put on close to the center as you can find, okay? And just so you understand how this is gonna work, can I actually start real quick? It's gonna be off in the corner, you won't be able to see it really well. These ears, you spread the C-stand all the way out, or combo stand, go ahead, and then it locks in place here. So now you've got adjustment left and right like this. All right. So that's why tying your knots is important too, because when you're in wind, this is not enough. You need to be able to anchor it down to the bottom of the stand. So everyone's gonna help me here. I'm gonna attach this guy to this, and then we'll go from there. Again, so I put this here. So it's whichever assistant you're working with. Some like to install the rags on the ground. I prefer to install them off the ground because then there's less of a chance of them getting dirty. So it's kind of personal preference. All right. So just so you have adjustment, it's important that these guys are on the outside. All right. So these guys are on the outside. All right. So the ears are going to open up. All right. Locked. This is called tabletopping it. Your assistant says, let's tabletop it and put the rag on, all right? This is a table, all right? Tabletopping. Now, what happens if you want to loosen it? A lot of times we use it like this, high in the air, blocking the sun, or it's just diffusing the light as it comes in. It's very versatile. They make these all the way up to 20 feet long. This one is a 6x6. So let's install this soap stand. All right, so we've got it here. There's two sides to it. You notice here, got it on my head here. So this side, all right, is going to be up part. This side is where the seam is and everything. So since I'm already looking at the up part, I want this to be up here. We've got these corners here that are going to hold it in place. So we'll go from corner to corner. So if you want to start with that corner, put that there. All right, then I'll find my other corner here. I'll attach my corner here. Attach all your corners first, and then start doing the tie. Perfect. So see, it's still a little bit flimsy. So now we're going to use these things, and you're really just going to tie it like you're tying a shoelace. All right. I hope everyone here knows how to do that. And the point of this is, don't double knot it. The point of it is you should be able to take this down in a couple minutes. You just do that, and you're good. All right. So you just want to make sure, again, tie it like you normally would. You want to zoom in on this real quick. Tie it like you would over the ears. There you go. 2 loops, all right, through the loop, pull. And then again, you're going to pull this. Once you're done, you're just going to go down the line and pull, pull, pull. So you should be able to do this pretty quick. Giving more pressure, it's making that China silk tight. The more you do this, the quicker you get it. That. Perfect. Now I will show it to the camera. Yes, let's you want to tilt this? So now we have all this control, and now we have fusion. Like I said, these are used for many things. Shoot through, you know, if you wanted some lights to go through here, a lot of times this is used overhead. I discussed making a cube. If you wanted to make a 6x cube and you wanted to make a mobile studio, I would just put sides on this. One thing that I had to learn to figure out, there's a lot of different options for rags, as they call them, or silks. And one of those is an ultra bounce. So I remember one time I was working on a set, and someone said, "Can I get a 6x Ultra?" Or no, they actually asked for a 12x Ultra. Like an Ultra, what the heck's an Ultra? An Ultra basically means that it's got a white side and a black side. So if you want to add light, you add light. If you want to subtract light, you're going to subtract light. So they're pretty heavy. But this, like I said, this is going to be type of diffusion. Those are going to be subtracting and adding light. They're not going to be stopping. Yeah, there's different levels. You've got nets, just like you've got flags. This is just a larger version of that. So those are great for when you're doing products, but you don't want to see your frame in the shot with the person. So these get a lot bigger, a lot quicker.
Ooh,
yeah.
We are reaching the end of the class.
Perfect.
So we really want to thank you, Chris, for taking your time. We know that your hourly rate doesn't mean anything to be here.
It's okay.
But we really thank you for taking your time to like come in here and share all this with the students. This is so valuable information, but because it's coming from a student just like you that graduated last semester, and now he's working in the industry with one of the biggest photographers, making a lot of money. So this is great experience. So I hope this inspires you for you to become like him and, you know, start your journey becoming one of those main photographers at Digitech one day. But I'll be sharing this recording.
Yeah.
Take attention, take all your notes, and next class, we're gonna start with the test. Make sure you're not late, because might fail if you don't show up on time. And please study a lot. It's gonna be a hard test.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I wish you all the best of luck, and hopefully one of these days I see you on set. So, thank you.
Well, thank you everyone.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Bye, Zoe.
If anyone have any question with Chris, I want to stay just for a little bit.
Yeah.
Feel free to.
Please. Please. Okay.
So Edwin, for next week is just the test?
Yes. Yes. Next week is just the text. Plus something additional we'll learn.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good, sir.
Edwin,
Jared, can you please mute the computer? Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Dennis.
so about the APA thing, do you recommend we getting it right now, or you know?
I will recommend you to get
Right now,
I mean, the best way to take advantage of the APA is right now, because they always have programs for photographers. They also promote you as a photographer, so they have you as a list of photographers. So when you type your name, you appear on their website, and it's not pricey at all. And there are many amount of events that they keep having across the US. You can attend to all of those webinars for free. And the APA is an organization that has multiple chapters across the United States. So then they have San Francisco, Chicago, LA, New York. So then there are multiple events happening all the time. So there are many, many more resources. Feel free to navigate the website so you got a better idea. But definitely highly recommended. Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
Of course. Well, if any of you have any other questions, feel free, or feel free to also reach out to Chris. I will share with all of you. You'll have his email, his website. He'll be very nice to reply to all you. Cool. Okay. Well, I will end the session. I will share this with everyone. Okay. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Bye, Craig.